Yeah, I got you guys booked up with everybody. So Andrew's online, Mason Squeeze online. That actually.
Yeah, because we've been trying to get. I mean, we don't know very many monitor people,
now.
But
after I do this, I'm gonna like. I like what you got.
Yo, get us Robert Spracklin.
Give me a list. No, not like before we start. Like seriously, like give me a list and I'll see, because I might know somebody, and everybody wants to FaceTime.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, like Dr. Spracklin. He's the one who wrote like some of the old school monitor books.
There's a guy at Temple that does it too. He's one of the main guys that wrote a lot of stuff. He's the one that helped Robert Faust with his book. He works at Temple.
Because we're trying to get those type of like intellectual guys.
All right, like just give me a list. Let's not go through every. Let's just give me a list, and then
we're live.
You know.
Okay, let's go live. Right.
Go. Welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. So, Theportcitypythons.com. We have some animals available, and importantly, Philly, whoever's in the area, Oaks, Pennsylvania, this Saturday. We will be at the Reptile show, and I feel like we had something more to say about that. Come see us if you want, say, even Coco Chip. We'll have bedding with us. We will have a bunch of animals. There's really not that many animals left, so come get them. This will probably be our last chance before we get into the new group of animals. What year is this? 2019 breeding season is kind of upon us. I haven't brought animals up yet, but we are almost sold out.
So we'll be bringing them up.
Yep, in the next couple weeks or so. So I look forward to starting this whole charade over again, right? Well, I felt like, the hard work's over, but it's like now it's getting boring. So now I think we'll be at about we'll be producing hopefully king snakes and stuff too this year. So more variety.
We produced about 80 total last year. So I'm thinking at least 120. We include all the king snakes
and I think our females from last year have gotten a few more meals in them, and I think they're going to lay, each year it seems like, we have 6 one year, and then you have 8, and then 15. And then, I mean, with that old girl, the girl who's retired now, I mean, we'd have 22 eggs or something. So it's slowly ramping up the amount for each female. We have more females coming up this year. And yeah, that's pretty much enough about us. So t-shirts for sale, all that stuff.
Yes.
So today we have Dorian for our official in studio. So obviously he's here in Philly. Dorian keeps monitors, in particular Ornate monitors. So could you give us a little idea? Obviously your company is BH Varanus, right?
Yes.
And then can you give us an idea of how you got into reptiles? Because it's not really your average story.
It's something that I fell into. I've always been an animal person in general. And I think that over the years, I was overseas in Asia for a bit, and it's easy to get reptiles over there. I was in the United States Air Force. I was a statistician, and we used to get all types of animals because there weren't a lot of restrictions. So a lot of stuff I can say that I didn't have, but I was real novice. I was a novice.
Is this in like barracks or?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I know.
But we had it set up. I was very good at hiding everything before inspections and things like that. And I was also in special ops, so they kind of gave me a little bit more freedom. My barracks are larger than most people's. And I think it came down to once I started realizing that my care was improper, because I was in my early 20s. So it was just the awesomeness of the animals. And I think after a while, I started feeling sorry for the animals, and I started actually like letting them go in the woods, which I probably should have did. But I was, it was at that time.
Wait, this was in Asia?
Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff going on over there. So it's that's why I haven't said the country. But I learned a valuable lesson after that. And I think moving forward, I went a spell where I didn't have anything, and then I had a very expensive dog. I came back home with the college, finished everything else, and I was working at a couple firms, and I had bought this super expensive dog. It was like $5,500.
God damn.
It was under 4-page contract. It was like a crazy situation, and the dog died. So it actually wasn't perfect. It was a whole breeder thing, and I never coped with it, so I got another animal. So at this point, I felt I had the money because I was working in finance, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna get an Ornate monitor." But I didn't know it wasn't. I thought it was a Nile monitor, and then I figured out later when it started growing a little differently And I had actually purchased a book by Robert Faust called Nile Monitor. And the whole other half of the book, one half of the book is about Nile monitors, one half is about ornate monitors. I realized I had an ornate monitor, and I bought this thing at 3 feet. It was a rehab. I didn't know it was a rehab when I had it. So it actually shot up to like 6 feet in less than like 6 to 8 months. It was like the craziest thing you'll ever, like, I don't even think it happened.
So is that the difference between the Nile and the ornate as far as the growth rate?
No, the difference is actually that was a special case where that animal was living in, before I got it, it was living in a 55-gallon tank with a tegu with one light.
Oh,
so when I got it, I was like power feeding it. I really was, I was researching it.
You were loving it.
Yeah, I was loving it and giving it a lot of space. But then I was like, wait, this isn't going to be like the last time. I got really deep into it. I went to Drexel University's medical library, pulled all the publications that are like $60 a piece. Made sure that I did everything right. Built a huge enclosure. Hired electricians to do the enclosure. It was a 8x4x4, but to me it was like huge. I made a lot.
Snake guys are like, that is huge.
So it was like, but it was cool. And it grew and everything was fine. Like all the mistakes I made with that first animal, and it was a rehab. And it's like, I felt I was saving it, but I really wasn't doing it a service because I really didn't know what I was doing. But when I had that book and I read that book, it empowered me. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to be doing this. And this thing is from West African rainforest. And this isn't a Nile. And to answer your question, they grow at a slower rate than Niles. The Nile, I want to say personally, from keeping both, is that ornates have a slower metabolism. So it's not so much that's what is the trigger for them growing a little slower. And I think that's why in the hobby they don't last as long, because they're not growing as fast as people think that they're Niles, and they're not. There's papers that are out that are conflicting. From what I hear in the academic community, those papers aren't accepted. They have 2 different sexual organs from Niles. That right there constitutes a different species. So there's people, I guess, the powers that be, that are working on redoing the papers. But when you keep both animals and you put them together, one has a bigger skull, one has a stronger bite. One is a Nile monitor is very hard to kill. Like they're very hard to kill. Like you can keep them in some very unspeakable conditions and it'll last. An ornate monitor, you don't have the proper humidity, 24 months tops. Or if it gets past 24 months, it'll die at 6 years. So
why 6 years?
A lot of it has to do is that they have. I've had a lot of vets. I had a necropsy done on an animal that I just lost to cancer, and I have a lot of theories. And because I'm a finance guy, I'm not a biology guy. So all I have is my publications and the doctors I ask and the biologists I speak to. I'm coming to the conclusion that these are early on. It's an early onset thing. It's almost like a human baby. When you don't give it the proper humidity, complications will occur.
The damage is
done. And a lack of humidity really it hurts the animals in such a fashion that it messes with circulation, and a lot of those things help contribute to different growths and cysts, which can become cancer. So I think a lot of it has to do with ornates aren't considered an advanced animal. But if people were going to keeping it like a water monitor probably is the closest thing to keeping it alive.
So, I mean, I've heard multiple things as far as like some people don't really believe in water bowls per se. They get a lot of their water from food and stuff like that. So, I mean, what part does that play in it? I don't know, man. I don't know much about monitors.
No, you're good.
But so I may ask you some things that people hate.
This is you're fine. So humidity is, even on my YouTube channel, like that is what humidity is, water piggybacking on an air molecule. That is what hydrates these animals. Any reptile, they're getting a lot of their moisture from the air. Okay. And especially those animals that are in those areas where there's rainforest involved.
They're essentially drinking every time they breathe.
Yeah. So they're being hydrated every day. Even if our humidity is too low, you start to feel the dryness in your nose. Mm-hmm. Your mouth gets dry. Your different things start to happen for humans. Imagine a reptile in a box that should have between 70 to 85, which is the standard reasonable percentage, which I keep mine at an 80 to 100. But it's but that's me. But realistically, have to give people a number that they can reach. Mm-hmm. And I think it's one of those things where the humidity is the key thing. People, they want to give them baths. No, if your humidity was right, you wouldn't have to do that. Right. You shouldn't be giving your monitor a bath. You should have your enclosure tight. You should have your humidity high. between 70 to 85, a little bit higher, can't hurt anything. Keep the water dish clean when it's a high humidity. That way they don't get, bacterial infections and things like that through the air or respiratory infection. And then you'll be okay. But humidity, for some reason, because it's such a hard thing to manage, and you have to have a sealed enclosure. And if you're not good at building enclosure, large monitors aren't the thing for you,
So for an idea, I mean, we're here in Philly, so we have a similar climate.
Yeah.
And when I heat the house, I know that my snake room dropped to about 20% humidity.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, and I have a humidifier in the snake room just to keep it to 50, right? So how the hell are you keeping it 80 to 100 right now?
Well, the way I do it is I have Mist King misters from Josh's Frogs. So I have like a bunch of motors. I literally just have a stockpile of motors, and I have Mist King misters in each enclosure. So I have those on. I know that with sealed enclosures and the way I build my enclosures, I know that I only need to pump those misters for about 3 minutes, which is even longer than what they suggest on the mister system. So I'll run those for about 3 minutes, 3 times a day. So I'll usually have them on a timer. I have everything on timers and stuff like that. And I usually only have to use that around this time of year, because if they're eating and it's dry, like my humidity in where they're at right now in my basement is probably like 27 outside the enclosures.
Mm-hmm.
And my highest humidity I can get when the weather's like 26 degrees outside is probably about 82%. So what I do is I now take down their feed because I'm not getting what I would usually get for them to really, build the gut bacteria that they need, because sometimes that incremental change in temperature will affect the monitor's digestion, and I don't need any issues. You know what I mean? I don't want anything rotting in anybody's stomach, stuff like that. Their basking spots are 110, 120. And the same thing goes in the summer. If it gets too hot, nobody's lights are on. Like it's a lot of things that I do that my enclosures are larger enclosures and they're stacked. So I have heat coming from the bottom to the top. So all my older animals are usually on the bottom enclosures. Really? Because the larger animals can hold heat longer. So it's more of it is surface area to volume ratio. So the smaller, and I think Andrew Llewellyn actually hit on this, and hopefully you guys will have him on. It comes down to the smaller the animal, the harder it is for that animal to keep heat in. Okay, so the surface area for that animal, the volume is less than a larger animal. It's like a weird equation that gets all, I'm doing a whole video on it's probably gonna be like 20 minutes.
People are hot too. So,
but they also hold heat. That's why they hold heat a lot longer. So
fat people are old. They hold heat.
Fat people monitor, same shit, really.
Fat people hold heat, so it makes sense.
She explained it.
Sorry for all the people offended by our talk today.
That's pretty much what it is. So I have my older monitors on the bottom, and because the way I have my fixtures on my enclosures, they're actually getting warm. So I got about a half inch of space. So they're actually heating the bottom of the top enclosures. But these enclosures are so they're like 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. So the younger monitors are actually getting heat from the top and the bottom. Okay. So you know what I mean? And with the humidity and everything else, I have a huge water. I use giant cement tubs. So it's a good mixture. And then I think during the week I might spray down the substrate, make sure it doesn't dry out. Because a lot of time the trick with that is the substrate. I think when the substrate is extremely wet, the lights kind of help with the humidity as we evaporate some of the water off it. So I do all these little tricks to keep everything going. Yeah, so it's an ecosystem, and I have bioactivity going. So I know if my insects are running around because my pill bugs need a certain humidity to survive. So I keep everything monitored with that. Dude,
you're the only one that I think I've seen, and maybe it's just because I don't know a lot of monitor people, but it looks like you have like grass growing in your enclosure.
Yeah, so
and do they not like rip that up immediately, or what's going on?
It's not for me and it's aesthetically pleasing, and but it's not for me. What I do is whenever I reset an enclosure, I do like a hard clean once a year. So because I'm using wooden enclosures, I have to mess with those enclosures a little bit more often than with somebody that has PVC, which is like the godsend material for monitor guys. What I'll do is I'll set the enclosure, and what that grass does when it grows, it helps me test out the quality of the soil for bioactivity as far as the insects are concerned. So what happens is the humidity ends up boosting like 20%. As soon as that grass is like at a certain length, the humidity sets. So I won't introduce an animal into an enclosure unless it's at least 100% humidity, but that's me. Because that's my practice. That's how I set things up.
Because if you're not starting ahead of the game, I mean, you figure it's only going to go down.
Exactly. So my thing is, I don't mind it dropping down to 85 to 90, but with the grass, and also it's a little bit of enrichment because wherever they're close, they've already grinded up all the grass. So they're going into something new. They get to investigate it a little bit. You know, it takes some of the stress off of it. And I know my animals. So what I'll do is they don't dig it up. They'll actually just like lay the grass down, and the grass eventually breaks down. And that helps boost and feed some of the pill bugs and all the centipede stuff that I have in the substrate.
I can imagine that also helps you out as far as just freshening the air. Like the air would probably be stale.
Yeah, and the oxygen level in the enclosure is okay too. I kind of just want to. They're living in a box, so I try to make that first entry as as pleasant as possible. That's all I can do. A lot of people, they're gonna destroy it, but it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm just trying.
Even though you spent 40 hours doing something, doesn't mean that.
And if you're a monitor guy and you're really serious about this and you really try your best to take care of your animals, and you have the financing, part of the fun is building the enclosures for me. Like 90% of this really is the enclosures, because once you get your animal set up, like
these are not like very hands-on a lot of animals.
Yeah, I have Ornate monitors. They're batshit crazy. So I have to be careful. Like it's one day, my oldest, my adult, until they get about 8, 9 years old, cause I use a hands-off type of tactic. I don't play with my animals. They're not on leashes, things like that. And I think my animals tend to work their way around to wanting to be around me. You know what I mean? They
kind of get used.
They're already it's kind of a shoddy deal. They're already in a box.
Yeah.
They feed. They gotta eat when I tell them to eat. Like they don't get there's certain things that are taken away from them being in captivity. So why not give them the choice to engage with me? My adult female will engage. I can pick her up. I can take her to a vet appointment. Like all of that stuff. But at the same time, I think it's more of a thing where hands-on with certain species is okay. Water monitors are a lot more tractable. Savanna monitors, a lot more tractable. Statistically, you always have like the a-holes in every species, but ornates tend to be more skittish. They're moody. They remind me of really mean cats. They want to be pet like once a year. Like that's kind of how I look at it.
They want to be pet when they want to be pet.
Yeah, they're good for guys that have established collections.
Right.
You're not going to really be messing with it too much, but for the most part, like because they're hands off for the first like 60 days. They need that high humidity. You cannot. You have to let them get that for the first 24 months. I mean, but
you're talking about when you first
get the animal, as a wild caught hatchling, you have to give them that premium. They're scared. It's a rainforest animal for a reason. They don't want to be around humans. It's not like water monitors. A lot of, especially I think Sumatrans and a lot of ones in Thailand. They're in the populace. They know what humans are. That's stuff that genetically they carry that with their offspring that gets carried down to them. There are areas in Africa where ornate monitors are worshipped, godlike.
Really?
So they're like certain little tribes and stuff like that. But a lot of where they were, if you I've done the latitude longitude on a lot of the areas where they did the research. It's all developed now. So it's a lot. It's a very underappreciated animal, and it's an animal that gets a shoddy deal. It's a very challenging animal, but if a person has one, keep that one because they get very large, and there's just not a lot of adults. There's probably less than 10 healthy, like legitimately healthy adults that aren't obese, aren't on leashes. You know what I mean? Like So there's guys like Brian Waterloo. I haven't met him yet because I haven't made it to Tinley, but I know a lot of people that know him. Robert Faust, I've spoken to him on several occasions. He's like the guy. He's the guy that wrote the book. So to me, he's like, and Andrew Llewellyn, he's our generation's guy. When it comes to monitors, I don't care what anybody says. But it's because he deals with a lot of Africa in general. So he has a very broad, he's a biologist. So the answers you get from him are going to be 100%.
And they're thought through.
Yeah, like he's rough around the edges, but that's one of his best traits is because you're gonna get a no nonsense answer. You just gotta answer my questions. But yeah.
So let's go back a little bit because obviously this enclosure build is serious.
Yeah.
I mean, that's half of the whole thing, if not more. So let's go, because this is so far away from what I've seen people do, and just building your own enclosure for such a large animal. You have videos doing it, but kind of explain a little bit about how you construct your enclosure.
So when I plan out the enclosures, I think when I built my first enclosure, I have it was like a 8 foot by 4 foot. I hired an electrician. It cost me a couple $1,000s to do. Like I wasted a whole lot of money doing it. I caught myself trying to use the best practice that I knew. I had like a plastic lining in the bottom. I didn't know that the animal was gonna rip it up. Like, you know what I mean? This is for my first Ornate. And after that, I sat back and literally like I was in between firms. I had left my one firm and I had like 3 months just to chill, you know? And I decided to make a 10 foot by 10 foot with water features. And I started doing all this research, and I had worked with koi ponds when I was in Asia, you know, another thing I wasn't supposed to be doing. So but I made this whole water feature, did a whole filtration thing. I did the whole Fox rock thing, the trees and all of that. And I learned 2 things. I don't need to spend thousands of dollars to make an enclosure. I think I spent $150 now to do enclosure.
And they probably look better than what
you know, and that's part of when you're doing any type of large animal, no matter what it is, you learn from that. You know, I think a lot of farmers go through the same thing when they're building enclosures for their animals. After some experience kicks in, you're like, oh, I could have just did this. So what I'll do is I'll map out where I'm going to put it, and then the first thing I think of now is how am I going to take it apart? Because I don't like just ripping stuff apart and then having to take it to the
You want to be able to reuse it in some form.
Yeah, like I've been reusing probably the same frame and wood for the last like 5-6 years, just because of the way that I prep and prime the wood, you know. And these are temporary enclosures too. So when I move to my final house, I'll be building like in-ground enclosures. But one thing that I do is I'll go ahead, I'll look at the size, what kind of animal, when am I going to move the animal? So I have stages. I have my hatchling, anything for a wild caught hatchling is going in a 24 by 24 sealed PVC PM herps enclosure. There's nothing better because I need to keep that humidity high. It helps me rule out who's sick and who's not. Then they'll matriculate over into it's a 6 by 4 by 3. Okay, so these enclosures, what I'll do is they're built just like mini houses, just like the ones you see on HGTV. It's the same it's the same process. Like they are seriously like snapped together. You know, physics, like how many pieces of wood do I need? Like I map it out completely. I draw it out, you know, I think I started out using Google SketchUp when I first started, but usually what I'll do is I'll sit there, mark everything out, see how I need to set everything up, prime everything. So what I'll do is I'll build it up, then I take it apart, prime everything with dry lock. I'll do like 6-7 coats. I use the OSB because they're temp cages. So I'm expecting to replace these cages. Because I know I'm expecting to replace them, there's no point in using like an inexpensive plywood. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and that's a part of it that I like. You know, everybody's different. Some people just like the animals. I like the enclosures. So after I build it up and after I prime it, I go ahead and like a Lego, literally. Like it can actually stand together without being screwed in. So I've streamlined the whole, you know, if in a better economy, I would drop ship these things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, you know, but so after I do all that, paint it, seal it. And then what I'll do with the doors, I'll take the doors are a separate part. So all the doors are always saved. And so that's the part that has the least damage. You know what I mean? I don't use any type of windows or anything like that. I started out in the beginning using like a plexiglass, but with Ornates, like they're just inquisitive and they're super strong and they just destroy things. I've seen people keep them successfully different ways, but I do not have time to walk in and see a 7-foot animal just running around. You know what I mean? Like it's not my thing. I work too much. So what I'll do is I just put wood there and it gives them their privacy because they are a rainforest species. I believe that they need their privacy. So what happens is I'll slide the whole front end. So everything's like snapped together and then I stack them according to heat. So everything is really helping everything else. Like if a enclosure ever went out, I know there's heat coming from a particular area because all the enclosures are facing one another in a particular angle where the heat's bouncing off of everything. So I have it all like worked out. Like I think my biggest fear is if I get like a lot of space when I move, I might not know what to do and I might just have to put a crazy HVAC system in. You know what I mean? So, but I think with that, I think right now what I'm learning is like reinforcing the foundation because as my animals get bigger and heavier, it starts to weigh down. And no matter how much you paint a piece of wood, especially OSB, it's gonna wear down. It's not used to that level of humidity, and it's exposed. You know, because regular framing wood is protected by the fiberglass, it's protected by the sheetrock. You know what I mean? Things that can deal with moisture as to where it's flat wood. A lot of people. Another thing with doing my channel, I found that I had to start taking down the cost. So that's where I was like, okay, for $150, I can build this enclosure. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that because people were asking me, how did you build it? And I'm like, you can just put some pieces of wood together. It's nothing special. This is not the the standard way to do it. I know Nerd has a good setup. The way they almost have like a horse stable type of setup.
But it's also not accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, and they don't show them a lot. So, but my thing is that you do need to do a little. You need to science it up a little bit. It's points where if you're going to deal with a large body monitor, you need to do the research and you need to become a carpenter really fast if you're not with it. I do have a little bit of a contracting background because my family owned a business back in the day, but it kind of helped me out. But nothing, 16 inches on center, the foundation is solid. But even with that, I still have to put foam just so I can get that extra like support because my animals are so heavy.
Right.
They might want to crawl to the top and try to rip down a fixture. Like I deal with that a lot, like, because they're in a box. So you can't be upset if it destroys it. You know what I mean? Like it's in a box. And I don't think that hits a lot of people.
And you just have to be prepared for when it happens.
And with monitors, we have a saying, I know Andrew Llewellyn and a couple other guys, if you don't have $1,000 to the side for medical and for like accidents and for fixtures, if you're dealing with...
Is that like them hurting themselves?
Anything can happen with when you have more than one full-grown monitor. Like these things are, they stress out like anybody else. They do. And I think it's part of the monitor hobby. That's one of the things why there's so much aggression in it toward new people, because we really want to tell people, what you're getting into. Everybody wants to talk about, well, I do this the quickest way, I do this the best way, or you just need to do this, but when it comes down to it, you gotta have that support fund ready. Like, at any moment I'm ready to take my animal to the vet and have an emergency surgery done if impaction or something happens. I just lost a male because I opted out of a ultrasound, which I'll never do again. I was paying $600 per vet visit. I'm not saying people need to do that, but I'm also anal retentive and I have a responsibility to these things that I place in that box. Yeah. Like it's just what it is. It's just the bad, it's the downside to it, but you have to have the money and the feeding alone. The food will break you. Like if you don't,
I don't know how you do it.
Ornate's 56% of their diet is crustaceans. So I actually drive to the marinas in New Jersey and I get my green crabs from the marinas. I bring them home, sanitize them on ice. Then they eat a lot of birds. 10% of their diet is mice. I'm not a fan of. And
are you strict with that percentage, or is it fluctuate? Because obviously with seafood,
I have whiteboards. I'm super like boom, 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 boom.
Like season.
Seasonality of.
So in the season, in seasons like this, what I'll do is I'll do predominantly crustacean because I know it breaks down 100% clean. I noticed that because we're in the Northeast, the temperature fluctuations is just so hard, even with heaters. They know that outside is freezing. For some reason, they know the ambient is different. These things don't brumate. They're from the West African rainforest. Right now in the West African rainforest area, it's probably like 98 degrees. It might be like 70 at night. That is not what it is right now. So what happens is that they'll still be hungry, but the digestion takes a little bit longer. So I'm at this point in the game, I'm worried about gut bacteria. You know what I mean? I'm worried about how efficient they can break down their food. I know their base diet being crustaceans is 100%. There's no turds, there's no waste from it almost. It's a very watery urate. If I throw a bird in there, I know that in the winter, just maybe depending on the cold snap, the feathers won't break down completely. It'll be more feathers in the water. So I'm looking at their fecal matter to make sure that everybody's doing okay. I'm like, I'm looking at the water, like I got gloves. I'm hands on. I'm like, no, these are my babies. I'm like, look, and to me, that's just my responsibility level. I don't force this on people, but my thing is like, but when you put yourself out into the public eye the way I have, I better know the answer to it. So I'm reading the publications, and I'm not scared to read a publication on bearded dragons and agamas and apply it, at a larger scale. But I think it's more of a thing where they don't break down with these cold snaps. And they're getting worse every year. It's getting harder for them. They can break it down, and I have the heat, but I don't want it under the heat lamps for like extended periods. You know what I mean? My animals are real good about thermoregulating properly and staying under, whatever. But it's harder to manage, like trying to feed them. Like me feeding them mice in the winter just doesn't do well for me. For other species, water monitors are like, to me, in my opinion, are like garbage cans. They eat anything. Them things break things down quickly. It's in and out, But different animals have different gut bacteria loads. Different animals can adapt to things a little bit differently. I don't know. They're also area. So there's some people that could argue, you know what I mean? But that's all I have is ornates. And I have several of different sizes, adult to juvenile to subadult. So I'm just watching the same behavior pattern. My juveniles can eat a mouse, can eat a bird in the winter.
Really?
Why? Because the surface area, the volume is different. You understand what I'm saying? The heat, he can receive that heat from that thermal regulation.
Just as fast as he can get it, he can lose it. Though.
So with my bigger animals, it takes longer for them to warm. It's taking longer for them to warm up. It's just it's a little bit of biology, a little bit of science, a little bit of physics. You know what I mean? But it makes sense. And if people in the monitor realm really would have just applied that instead of arguing amongst themselves, a lot of the newer people, some of it's just factual information. It's not opinions. Right. You get what I'm saying? And I think that everyone can say, well, in my opinion, but that means that you're saying that it's a cop-out. You're saying that because what you're saying isn't based in fact. And if you sell it from that version, because even when Andrew Llewellyn explained it on a couple podcasts he's done on Owens or whatever, he was on I think it's Moralia Python, and he was saying the same exact thing. Like he just said it in a nicer way. Me, I'm just rough around the edges, and I'll get on there and be like, oh, you're just gonna die, but people get offended by that. So there's a little, soft skills are important, but they're not really there in the monitor community because we may have lost an animal to a mistake years and years ago, and it's a flashback, and we're like, oh, and
you kind of have that. I mean, you have that responsibility to make sure that people aren't getting in it for the wrong reasons or doing the wrong thing because, I mean, these are big animals. They are animals that, I mean, have consequences, stuff like that. So you don't want anyone messing up your hobby because, you want everyone to be responsible because you don't want them to mess up.
And you don't want, and the monitor section of it is just like, I think for what I'm told, it was when I first got into it, it was really with the forum before Facebook really made a hard hit with the reptile community. Like the forums were just hard, and it's guys like I know that their screen name and they're friends with me now, and I know that they were that screen name years ago. And they don't know what my screen name was, but I'm like, okay, they're good, But it's just people don't understand what they type is perceived differently than what they, And so a lot of times the forums I would get like kicked out of forums. And, my wife's like, yeah, I'm going to shut down your capabilities, because, at my temper, she's like, yo, you not get this serious. It's just a hobby. But I think even with Facebook, you see kind of things are coming to roost because all the veteran guys have left. A lot of them are older and a lot of them have different priorities, but they still have their collections and they're private. And I think that the monitor, I call it the monitor mafia, not in a bad way. I think it was these guys were really close. It was really close knit. Everybody knew everybody knew everything. Knew about everyone, and now this thing blew up open. So it was like I think that it was a very socially introverted community.
They weren't ready for all this people.
So if you get somebody that's not, if you get any type of element that's that enclosed and you try to expose it to the world, it doesn't go well. And Facebook is like a blowtorch. Like Instagram, you won't get the negativity. It's a smaller group. You get what I'm saying? Facebook is just like the Wild West. But what I saw is that even and over time, you don't know how tired that veteran guy is of saying the same thing over and over again. So one of the reasons I made my YouTube is because the guys before the Robert Fowle spoke to me, and
there's not many monitor guys putting information out there to the public.
And it's almost like everybody doesn't need to own a retic because it gets super big. You know what I mean? But there's people that are responsible enough to own them, and I think it's the same thing holds true for monitors. These things. In the wrong hands, really big.
So I think we see that in retics, but the thing in retics is there's mutations and there is a market where they're trying to get people into their little pyramid scheme. So I
won't say it. I'll let you say it because I'm not a snake guy.
Yeah, so it's like, so I think it may be different, but do you see that happening a little bit with water monitors now that black dragons are coming into and stuff like that?
I think that there's like a civil war going on with the water monitors. It's crazy, but it's one of those communities, monitors in general, where guys like Kevin McClurry, like he's one of the founding fathers as far as making this a marketable business. Guys, people have to like him. I don't know the guy personally. If I ever do, don't care. But it's just like I recognize what he's done. Just like Brian Barczyk, you have to give credit. Like I'm from South Philly. You gotta respect. You may, you may not like the drug dealer on the block, but he's employing everybody. So everybody's eating,
and he may be keeping you safe.
Yeah, so it's like Saddam. Somebody, when they go and clap the drug dealer, it's like stick-up kids are on the rise and people are getting their heads cut off. Like that's true stuff that happened in South Philly. But I look at it not to compare them to drug dealers, but some people aren't happy with their service from certain people, but they're big businesses, and some people are gonna fall through the cracks.
Right.
I don't make excuses for anyone, but at the same time, things happen. But I think that with the water monitor thing is, I think that Nerd gave this image that water monitors were like these puppy dog tame animals, and Prehistoric Pets also did the same thing with their sulfurs, years ago with their sulfur project. So the guys that are in the hobby, we know, okay, that's nice. That'd be nice in the collection. I could set it up in this many feet by this many feet. We're already thinking that. Mm-hmm. A newer person it's an impulse buy. So it's, I'm gonna get this because it's awesome.
It's also valuable and you can reproduce it.
But they don't know how much is going into it, So a lot of these guys were rooted in snakes. So they already have the incubator set up. They already have everything. They played with the numbers. If you're starting out like me, straight monitors, I'm picking a monitor that hasn't been bred in the United States in 20 years. There's a lot of veteran guys that don't give any shit, but they're like, if you want to deal with them, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I want to deal with them. But that's part of the challenge that I like. I've been close twice, and it's just, but close is not breeding, and it's just a thing where, but at the same time, I look at the climate of the hobby, and I'm like, damn, do I want to breed? Because I know how delicate it can be for a person that's just beginning. A veteran guy is going to take care of them just fine, and we always say that they're easy, but it's harder for someone who's just starting out. Trying to tell somebody they got to build an 8-foot box, but no, you got to have a smaller one first. It's a lot, and the startup costs just don't equate to the headache of actually breeding them out.
Not many people put that money into a dog.
And my thing is to have a healthy female of any animal. You want to breed them because you want them to pass fertile eggs instead of infertile eggs. That whole rigmarole. I'm gonna still try because I have all these animals. I ain't got nothing else to do with them but to do that. But I think a lot of it is that the water monitors and the fact that I think it was Varanus also made it to where it was one of those things where we really, really, really made that. Well, not we would. They made this environment that was simply just kind of septic, but it helped the hobby. You get what I'm saying? It brought camaraderie in and toned down some of the aggression, but at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it comes down to, I know nerds sometimes, and I know people that bought things from nerds, and they'll contact me, and I don't even know these people. They're like, yeah, well, it's not tame. I'm like, it's
not my responsibility.
I'm like, well, this is I'll say, well, how are you setting it up? And of course, they're trying to play with it because that's what they see nerd do. Mm-hmm. But this animal might be calm, but it's in shock because it's in a new environment.
And it's also building that relationship. I mean, these animals can change, they can change person to person from what I hear. I mean, they can recognize humans. They can recognize people.
Yes. I know animals that have come to me that were like batshit crazy and going back to the owners. I've had ornates that I've gotten from some guys that are breeders that they brought them in or whatever, and they'll be like, yeah, it ate at my house. It won't eat at my house, but it'll eat at his house, like literally night and day. But that's more of an advanced issue you would have because we're dealing with such a volume of animals. I've had over 21 ornates, and the thing is that the ones that I keep and don't resell or, give back to the breeders or whatever, like, are the best of the best. They have the these are the ones with the best, pigment. They're the best feeders. I'm more worried about an animal feeding well, digesting well. Like that's my first thing, because as a breeder, I'm coming from dogs, and stuff like that. I want a healthy animal. I want a healthy bloodline. So I have to look at it like that. And that's probably why I'm so retentive with a lot of this stuff. Cause I'm like, no, I need you to be tractable and healthy. I just don't want it to happen, And that's pretty much what it is. But I think the monitors in general, it's a lot of mystery to it because a lot of the veteran guys are just tired, and there's not going to be sympathy for you if the person doesn't know you. Mm-hmm. So when the person says, "What I got this water monitor," and then do a picture of it in a fish tank, and then this guy has been doing it for 20 years is like, "Oh, you're an asshole. You're fucking stupid. It's gonna die." Rah, rah. Then the bandwagon starts.
Yeah.
And then most of the time when that starts, is these are guys that really aren't the governing people. because even like Kevin McClure, he's a lot nicer to the people on his urban dinosaur thing. You know what I mean? Even the prehistoric pest guys, they're a lot nicer. You know, a lot of their guys aren't really that bad. It's just that you have the guys in the middle there that might have had an animal for 2 years or 3 years. It got bigger, it's overfed and obese, but can't tell them that. But they're experts, so they beat up on the new guy. So the new guy ends up, a lot of times that's how I get a lot of my followers and a lot of people contacting, because they're like, you know, nobody wants to tell me anything. And that's why a lot of my videos started going more toward reptile education for monitors, as opposed to just being ornates. Because how many people have ornates? Like 2. You know, how many survive? Like 1 a year, you know what I mean? So when I started doing those videos
and expanding,
you know, like it made in a very, as close as I could get to saying it in English, you know, because I'm not a bio guy. So I'm not going to totally black out on terms. So I just try to keep it as basic as possible. So when I do my enclosures, it's more of a, if you could at least strive to this, and this is, I want 12 foot by 12 foot for my animals. You know, I want crazy space. But if you could at least go and try to do this, because I was against bioactivity for a while.
Really?
Yeah, I had a buddy, Gerald Rico, who's like one of my like biggest like assets in this hobby, next to Andrew Llewellyn and Owen McIntyre. Like those guys right there, like they get on me. You know what I mean? Like especially early on, like it was hard. Like it was, you know, he's the one, bioactivity, man, you gotta do it. And I was like, oh, you know, the hell with that, you know, whatever. But it works. Like cages don't smell. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that was a question. Like, do you have problems with mold keeping it high humidity?
I use coconut coir or coconut husk or the Eco Earth, and I buy it in bulk, and it's huge. I buy everything like wholesale in bulk. And what I'll do is that tends not to hold. But go ahead.
I was going to ask you how much you get it for.
Joe is a
yeah, go ahead,
distributor.
No, I don't have to talk about that. But I'm curious, and I'll forget. Write it down.
Now you gotta plug yourself.
No.
If anyone wants to buy, you are a distributor.
No, don't worry.
Jabs Cocoa, and if you want to buy it by the pallet, you have it for sale.
Yeah, there you go. You can buy the pallet.
So
no shipping. You're in Philly. Come on.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did was when I got my coconut coir, I went to a hydroponics distributor, and I really got it.
Well, we sell it to half weed growers and half reptiles.
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying. Those guys are the masters of humidity. So a lot of what I've learned about humidity came from hydroponics, and I've never grown like any type of weed or anything. But it's the thing where those guys were like a wealth of knowledge. So I'm really good at like cross-referencing and adding this to this and taking what I need from different things. So with the coconut coir, it doesn't really mold. Everything molds eventually. If there's a piece of raw fecal matter, just bare and the lights are out, it's gonna mold. If it sits there, it's gonna mold. Just, you know, it's a different type of, you know, whatever. But I get a lot of success with the coconut coir. All the grass is grown in coconut coir. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's not soil. You know, and then I'm in the city. Where am I? No, I'm not. Because
I know some monitor guys dig up dirt from the backyard.
God bless them. God bless them. I don't have that luxury. That's city dirt. I don't know what that is. You know, I don't know what. I'm not, you know, and I try to do the soil, but when you do a lot of soils, a lot of times it'll have like fertilizers in it. And it's hard to get organic soil from Home Depot and Lowe's and the Ace Hardwares. And my thing is with the coconut coir, I expand it in scalding hot water. That's another way I boost the humidity, is when I'm setting the enclosure, I expand it out, throw it in there, get that going. And then the pill bugs, you know, I'll grab a couple out of another enclosure, throw them in there. You know, because I forget where I got my pill bugs from, but I got a starter set and they just multiply like crazy. And then after that, I went outside, got a couple centipedes, threw those in there. You know, spiders invited themselves in. So it's just like, you know, so there's a whole ecosystem going on. So I don't have the issue because the pill bugs handle the waste. You know, and my ornate monitors, they go to the bathroom in the water. So I have, you know, sump pumps and stuff like that. And I change the water like whenever it's dirty, I change it. You know, I'm not excuse me. I sit here and make up a story like I sit here and change water every day. No monitor guy is doing that every single day, because every day they're not going to the bathroom in the water, but they also drink that water. So you want to, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the basement checking enclosures, you know. And so what happens is with that, because it's more centralized, it cuts down on. Now, summertimes, I got to be on top of it. That's an everyday change because they're eating more, things like that. I don't feed them very heavy. I feed them just enough. You know, I don't feed them till they're bloated. I feed them like they might eat on a regular summer diet, they'll have like 3 crabs, and 2 chicks, 2 feeder chicks. Everything's frozen thawed. And that'll be a meal right there. I'm not trying, I want them to grow slow. I want their bones to develop nicely. Just like, I'm not trying to power grow anything, because with their metabolism is a lot slower. So that's going to be fat, So my thing is that with water monitors, the same thing but their metabolisms are a lot higher. That's why even though I've had a lot of water monitors, I never end up keeping them because they throw off my whole feed schedule.
Yeah.
And my food costs go through the roof because they're hungrier a lot more often. I'm kind of spoiled with my Ornates because I think my food cost a month might be like 500. And in the winter it's about 350 roughly.
Which is still crazy. So say how many animals you have.
So right now on site I have 6.
So keep in mind we have well over 100 animals, and ours is a little bit less.
You guys got a lot going on. So
but I take up way less space than your 6.
And our rodent bill is smaller than yours.
Well, you got also, let me say this as a disclaimer, like I said, I'm anal retentive, so I'm going, and Gerald Rigo, like me and him are like, and Andrew Llewellyn, we are feeder psychos. We will go out and get conch, we'll get like snails. We'll if we can find it, we'll buy. We like.
Do you brag when you find like a rare sea creature?
It's on Instagram.
Yeah,
like
I got today. Like
I bought. It's funny. I bought 2 live eels one time, and they were like 4 feet a piece. And then I realized that eels are toxic, so I couldn't feed them.
So what did you do with them?
Like I ended up like, so they're not. I don't have them anymore. So a lot of times I'll call people and I'm like, yo, I found this at the Asian market. They're live. They have crawfish. Boom. Do you need any? And a lot of times, like, we'll call one another. When we can. Because if they only got 10 pounds, that's my 10 pounds. But if they have 20, I might call one of my buddies. And be like, yo, do you need XYZ? And they're like, yeah, pick them up. They PayPal me. But now I understood probably what the closeness was to that monitor community back in the day, back in the 90s and 80s and everything. So because it's really like, I know what you're going through because you're feeding what you're feeding. Like I go to a fish distributor down Packer Avenue. You guys know where that is, down near the stadiums. Like where the stadiums down near the stadiums. Huge Samuel and Sons. I go to them and I'll buy trout. It comes out of Ohio, and so I'll buy trout year round. I'll buy huge boxes of trout, and it costs me a fortune. Like I'll spend $900.
Like you always smell like fish, probably.
No. You know what? No, I'm gonna tell you. Like when I get feeders, I clean everything, glove up, clean it, and I package everything in little portions. And the way I put everything, my meal prep is crazy. Nobody. I don't like when it comes down to my meal prep. Like I play no games with that. Like everything is like flattened out and just breaks off cleanly. And you've seen my stuff, like everything. Yeah. I have like the quail eggs and the chick, and I'll have my Missouri gel and all of that for vitamins, and they'll get their stuff.
So you do have to. There's like vitamins.
I'll do my female, my adult female. I'll supplement her because after a lay season, it's kind of hard on them. So I'll give her a vitamin supplementation. And Missouri, I got turned on to that by Andrew. And he was like, yeah, I use Missouri. So I started off with the croc bites. And because that was formulated for animals in Africa, that's where I correlated using that. You know what I mean? So, and it worked out pretty well. I use it as a supplementation just to get her back on track because she is a rehab and she has all these weird ailments because she is a rehab. She lays there really hard on her body. My younger animals, they don't care. I just give it to them maybe once a week and they're good. You know what I mean? Because they're Jello molds. So I'll actually do the molds, you know what I mean? And my wife's just looking at me like whatever. But I'll do the molds, put them in there, and they eat all their food. They're good. And at the same time, I feed them such a variety that I don't have feeding issues. They'll get their mouse every once in a blue moon, but for the most part, I don't try to excessively feed them mice. Usually, before a hard winter, I'll like kind of feed them a little heavier so they can retain the fat in the base of their tail, so they don't get too skinny. Just in case they go off a feed like this cold snap now. Like I can go and feed an adult Ornate once a week because I know her digestion. She might want the food, but that doesn't mean I need to feed her because I know it's not going to it might not digest in the time it needs to. So when I know it's going to be 40 during the day, I know that I'll bump my heat in my house, and then it'd just be like hell in there, you know. And then I know everybody's digesting on time. You know?
I think that's one of the hardest things for a lot of keepers to understand, that just because your animal wants food doesn't mean you need to feed it right then.
And that's the thing. I think that's the thing with the reptile thing. It's part of the appeal of the reptile hobby is the feeding part. It's the awesomeness. It's like some weird thing we have in our brain that no one else has. It's like, oh man, did you see it? Because, you know, I got scolded real heavy by like a lot of the veterans in the monitor thing about live feeding videos, feeding live. I was doing that. Because I didn't know the rules. So with the monitor guys, and a lot of people are gonna, you know, may argue against it. There's a lot of rules, and if you follow the rules, it's like gremlins.
There really are.
You know, it's a lot of rules, and there's a lot of things that are unsaid. And because if you say the wrong thing in public, people take it the wrong way. So I've had my hands smacked on so many things. So it's just one of those things where it's best practice, and that's the best thing that we have to go with it. And I think that it's a hard hobby, a part of the hobby to be into. And I think that the roughness needs to remain because it kind of weeds people out. Like I have people that I've had my troll. I love all my trolls. Shout out to all my trolls. You know, like I get some of the stuff I used to see in my inbox, just crazy, you know. But at the same time, they always die off because once they realize the information I'm putting out is basic info. I'm not saying this is how I do it. Screw this guy. Screw that guy. You know, I'm not playing that type of game because I'm worried about the animal's welfare. Mm-hmm. I'm always going to say build your enclosure. I'm always going to say high humidity. I'm always going to say don't touch your animal for 60 days. There's exceptions to every rule. Everybody's always going to be that one guy. Well, I've played with mine every day. I'm like, well, your animal might have Down syndrome. You know what I mean? I don't know. It might be a little slow because I know a healthy Ornate is going to come for that ass. You know what I mean? So it's just
they're just not hot enough. I'm sure. Yeah. But I've seen a lot of really chill savannas.
But I'm gonna say this in the defense of newcomers to the monitor hobbies, whether you're dealing with Ackies, Waters, Varanus, you know, anything, you know, Dorian's a lot of people don't get those, but Niles. Everybody started somewhere. A lot of us started with fish tanks, whether it was in the 80s or the 90s, you know, our fishbowl, you know. Everybody understands where you're coming from, and I think the problem with the hobby, especially, is that people forget.
Luckily, we didn't have Facebook when we did that shit. I had a heat rock, you know.
So I had like a couple of them. Oh, this broke. I'm gonna get another one. Like, you know what I mean? It was just, that's the way it was. You know, humidity. What's that? I don't care. You know. No, I was in the military. Had stuff in my wall locker. Like, you know, it was like Ace Ventura when you open it up. You know, it was just like that's where the BH the BH Varanus, the BH actually stands for Black Hannah, because that's what people were calling me when I was in the service. Like Jack Hannah, they would call me Black Hannah because obviously my ebony splendor. It's like, you know, that's where I got the BH stands for that, because those guys gave me that name, and it was like. But then when I started watching Jungle Jack Hannah in his younger days, you know, and I was like, oh man, he's talking about responsibility. But then, you know, he turns around, he has like a lion in his head in his house, you know. Right. But at the same time, it was like the responsibility started hitting me, and I was like, okay, well, you know, BH Varanus, that'll work. You know what I mean? A little homage to that. But I think the monitor community as a whole, like, humidity is the most important thing with any monitor. I know even with like black throats, like some animals, you just need a greenhouse, and people don't want to admit it, because once you realize you're doing something wrong, it takes a hell of a mature person to say, I'm wrong. Let me fall back from Facebook. Let me take all my crappy pictures down. Let me work some extra hours or get a part-time job, build my stuff. You know, because some people have to do what they have to do because it's an impulse buy. It's not, if you're at a reptile show and you see a $15 Nile, you're grabbing it. And then Ornates are like $50, $60 sometimes, you know, like so it's one of these things where they're easy access. You're not going to really see that with a nerd albino or, you know.
Yeah, because the price weeds out.
And that's one of the things too. So it's the inflated price weeds out the bad people, but you still have guys that.
And you still want some people to get their start, because you don't want no one to get them. You want some.
But we want, but
you want the people.
We want those starts to be with. I hate to say, we want those starts to be with like bearded dragon.
Yeah.
You know, the things with, you know,
even a Tegu Savannah, just
not a Tegu. No, I mean anything that things with less teeth. You know what I mean? With a smaller side, with a smaller the surface.
Well, I'm saying there's obviously levels. There's levels to it. But because, don't go straight to Ornate.
Because Ornates, I like that. I like it when the things are changing now, and my YouTube has helped out a lot. I feel with that species, because I get a lot of people, you know, oh, I follow your YouTube. And I'm like, okay. And I had one guy recently, like he did such a good enclosure. I was like, oh, okay. Like
it's almost
like,
like you
like,
never expect someone to follow your advice.
Yeah.
And then when you do it, you're like,
I only have like 2,000 followers, dude. I'm nowhere near like nerd level, but it's just like, but at the same time, it's kind of like, damn, like, okay, so it's working and the hobby is maturing. So not to take anything away from any of the newcomers, it's maturing in a way where people are realizing, let me build this up. I've had like 3 people say, I watch your videos. I'm really trying to figure out and wrap my head around getting into Ornate because they are more affordable. So that is going to be a go-to monitor a lot of times. And the thing is just like with Niles, just like with wild caught water monitors. So my thing is like I've given and I've made it verbal where I'm like, I'm really proud of the hobby in the direction that it's going. I just wish a lot of the veteran guys, I wish the patience and the stick-to-itiveness was on the veteran guys too to come back a little bit, even if it's for like once a month. Because at least if you did it that way, then people would be respectful. Because like, he's only here once a month. Let's be nice, you know.
He's only gonna talk to us.
Yeah, you know, and it's just I had to, you know, like I said, like I'm gonna say Andrew's name a million times because when I started out, I was already on YouTube and doing, and he's in PA too. So if you're in PA, you're gonna bump into Owen and Andrew, and it's just like he didn't tell me everything. He made me work for a lot of it, but it's just like I'm not a moron and I had access to the information. But it's just like, you know, even with him, he would be like, look, I'm not trying to, you know, because he had to be, because so many people are sensitive. And it's like, you just bought a carnivorous lizard, and you have sensitivity issues when someone tells you how to do it. So, but my thing is, I think it works both ways. And I try to be respectful to people and just tell them, now I just give them a link to my video instead of putting it, I don't put myself through it because at one point I felt myself, it was weighing on me.
Joe does it a lot more lately.
You have to have, and the good thing about your podcast is that you guys are talking about everything. So if you get a question about anything,
yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and then I'll send them a link and then they'll ask me a question that is on that list. Like I'll send people an article. Yeah, and then they'll send me a question. I'm like, hey man, that was in that article. And then after that, I'm like, you're donezo with me, man. That's it. But I love you all because if you're
but the price you pay, there's a price for being public.
Yeah.
And the price that you pay is you have to invest more in your patience. And I had to learn that. And my godfather's Italian, so he gives me all these, he's straight from Italy, so he gives me all these Italian proverbs. And it's just like, he's like, kid, you know, I'm just like, you know, but he told me before I even started, once you go public, you got to be careful and you have to be patient because that one person you do wrong could just make your life a living hell when sometimes it's just a link away. And sometimes some people, I just keep sending them links. Mm-hmm. You know, people have water monitors, I'll send them to Vital Exotics page because they have a great care sheet. You know, you know, if a person has a question and I don't know, I'll ask somebody that does. You know, you guys do colubrids. I'll call you like, okay, so I got this person. What I need to tell them, you know, or what can I send them? You know, I try to weed through and I try to like help people as much as possible because there's not a lot of people with patience, but it's something that needs to be learned. And Facebook, I think over time people are learning that the arguments aren't worth it. Because you look like a tool when you start arguing, whether you're right or wrong.
You're the one who looks bad when you're being an asshole.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not getting one over on that person. Everyone's just like, well, most people are like.
Yeah, and you know, I've been in isolated spats, but what I do is I just try to watch my tone because a lot of times when people say stuff, when you read it, you have so much pride in your animal and what you're doing. You go like, you know, when somebody calls an Ornate a Nile, it just sets me on fire. But guess what? The paper is out there. Is the paper accepted? From what I'm told, no. And that's. But I see both these animals. I know that they're different. You know what I mean? Two totally different personalities. And you know, one's hardier than the other. One's more terrestrial than the other. You know what I mean? One's isolated to a particular area. You know, and even like I said, from a biological standpoint. But I think it's one of those things where I just I'm like, no, that's an Ornate, and I just leave it at that. You know, I don't get as much as the fight back as I used to get. But my thing is I have so many, I'm like, it's not like I have one Ornate and I'm sitting here talking about how awesome Ornates are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's only a couple of guys. I'll say Brian Waterloo, Andrew Llewellyn, Robert Fowles. I'm quite sure there's like another guy in there, another 2 guys in there that I may not know or whatever. But when it comes to Africa, those are your guys. Mm-hmm. Me with Ornates, they respectfully don't bother me and let me just have the helm because nobody wants to be bothered with them. They love Ornates. All those guys love Ornate. You know, I'm the one being vocal, so why not? You know, these guys have been around for 20 years. why not give them a break? You know, but it's just, I wish they were here because it would be less work for me. You know, I wish for the day that, you know, Brian Waterloo pops up on a Facebook feed, you know, Robert Fouts is out there, you know, but, you know, these guys have been in the game for so long, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't ask them to be additionally patient, you know, because when people are being so aggressive. And I see that the monitor thing is just, these are animals that get really big, a lot of them. And it's in the wrong hands, it's like a loaded gun. All we need is somebody's animal get out and something happen. You know what I mean? Because accidents happen. And I think that's where a lot of it comes in at, you know. But you know, yeah, it's pretty much it's a perfect imperfection. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's I don't like the negativity. I don't like the lack of information that's out, but I know why it's there. And it took years for me to realize, like, oh, okay, damn, I can't say this public because this is gonna go be taken this way. Yeah. You know, like I put a meme up. It has Rock and it has the Rock and Vin Diesel face to face, and it says water monitor guy versus Ornate monitor guy. Yeah, it lasted for a couple hours on monitors and Tegus forum before like
someone got offended.
Let me take it down. You know what I mean? So it's just, but you know, every once in a while, you know, I'll start a little riff. But at the same time, I think water monitors, there's more information out there, and I think a lot more people keep them. I think a lot of them are overfed, stuff like that, whatever. But like I said, they're a more tractable animal. If you want something that's gonna be a pet, that's what we kind of gear people toward. With savannas, they're predominantly insectivores. Yeah, I've seen savannas like owned by some people that don't look like your regular savanna.
Well, feeding rats, I'm sure, is very different than feeding insects.
It has a lot to do with the fat content in the rodents. And I can't sit here and tell people not to feed whole prey and not to feed rodents, because sometimes that's what you have. You got to feed what you have. Philly is an agricultural state, just farms everywhere. Like I drive to Lancaster and get fertile quail eggs to feed my monitors. Yeah, okay, whatever. No one's gonna spend $200 for that except for me. You know what I mean? But
you feed yourself as well as you feed your.
Oh yeah, me and my wife are like, it's like Food Network in there. Like, so it's just like we have every KitchenAid. I'll have you guys over. So it's just, you guys are right down. So it's just like my wife. Yeah. So yeah. So we're very good. Foodies? Yeah. No, we're just. She's from the South. She's hardcore. I'm more of the chef, the honey scallops and all that. You know.
Do you cook some of the seafood? Do you pick up some of your own food? You'll cook some of the seafood?
Only thing, my wife is from the South, so I'm not allowed to feed Dungeness crabs anymore to my animals, because I was feeding them Dungeness. I was literally buying Dungeness crabs for my Ornates and cracking the shell. I was giving them Dungeness crab. I was giving them Dungeness crabs on a half shell. And my wife just like lost her shit and like raided the deep freezer. It was like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. So the green crabs are small and they're bait crabs, so I can get it. Crawfish, she doesn't eat crawfish. Lobster, I can't do lobster anymore. It's a couple things like, you know, but like I said, like I have a different financial situation than most people. And I also want to state this is like, if you have an Asian market, be careful with the food, read the backs of it, try to get as fresh as you can. Okay. So Philly has a lot of Asian markets, has a lot of farms. There's a lot of marinas right there. You know, we have a fish season, a solid one. You know what I mean? We have rodent breeders, you know, that supply chicks. I've hatched my own quail eggs, you know, stuff like that. So it's, you know what I mean? Like I have this, you know.
Someone in Montana may have some issues.
You got to do mice. And so that's why I've never made a video or outwardly said like what I really feel about the rodents, because it's not going to help the hobby. And the last thing I need is to be the root of someone's conversation on Facebook. And then someone saying, Dorian, JP, you need to holler at them. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, you know, it's I don't need the Voltron where somebody, you know what I mean? So like, it's almost, so what I tell people is that when it comes to monitors, try your best to figure out what best practice is and figure out what is the most rational thing for you to do in your area that's available. Sometimes, you know, they've streamlined the feeder process where they come in baggies like dog food now, you know, and I think it's called Lane Labs is one. You know, you have your Rodent Pros. I'm not affiliated with any of them. I don't actually buy food from any of them. I've done Lane Labs once, but I like to see my food when I grab it. So I'll go to Expo and grab a big, you know, thing of like chicks. I want to see the food that I'm grabbing. But I'm also a guy trying to breed something that hasn't bred in damn near 20 years. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to make sure that I got all my I's and cross all my T's. And I'm quite sure other people have gone through the same thing. And it's a blessing that I'm respected and not bred, because if you're not a breeder, it's like, who the hell are you? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I ain't no damn fool either. And it's like, I'm putting in the time. And I've been so close, but close is not breeding. You know what I mean? You don't get a cigar for being close. You get a cigar for doing it twice. You know what I mean? Robert Faust has already done it.
Yeah, once is a mistake.
Well, no. Well, the thing is that Robert Faust, and he was so, he has the power. The dude is on top of his game. Like, if he really wanted to do it consecutively, he could. Like, I really do, and I wish he would. Then it would take the heat off of me, and I could just like make my videos. But it's just like, because you still got to put up. What are you gonna do with 22 to 45 babies?
Wait a second, that's how big their clutches are?
Yeah, my adult animal, her clutch, she has about 22 eggs a year. The most she ever had was 41, and those are infertiles. Man. So
it's not the female cycling, it's the male fertilizing the eggs.
What?
Typically when it comes to breeding. So you've been unsuccessful because you haven't had a male fertilize the eggs, but she will pass eggs. She
like I said, she's a rehab. So her infertils are getting cleaner and cleaner. I just got yelled at by my wife this year, kind of sort of, because I didn't incubate 2 eggs that looked really good. Because I could have got Parthos, parthenogenesis eggs, because they do that. A lot of monitors do. To me, that doesn't count.
Oh, so your males weren't big enough though?
No, my male wasn't. He passed away 2 months ago of cancer. That was a male that I lost. He was a bulldog. He was like the only, he would like really,
but he never got the job done for whatever
reason. I missed it. I missed the window, and I should have took a day off from work when I didn't. And it was like, this Hannah, and she wasn't feeling it, and it's just like, but he tried. He was a trooper, and that hurt me a lot. And I lost a pair, and they were misdiagnosed by the vet. We used Panacure when we should have used Baytril, and they ended up both had heartworms, and they both came in as subadults. So they were already ready to go. They were already bonded, the whole nine. Like, they were going at it. I had videos. Like, I was getting to hobby.
You're like, here it goes.
I'm like, you about to do it, and it's just like, like, I'm so close. And my thing is, if somebody got lucky, God bless them. Do it twice. Yeah. Only person that doesn't have to do it twice is Robert Faust. You know what I mean? Because to me, like it's certain people that just, it's like they don't need to explain themselves, because he's such a nice guy. He's so open to everybody. But talking to him and knowing the knowledge he has, you know what I mean, how he applies things, like, it's just, it was like, okay, yeah, I need to do it twice. I need to do it twice. You know what I mean? I'm not Robert Faust. I'm not Brian Wardle. I'm not Angela Wood. I need to do it twice. And then I'll probably never do it again. Unless my animals have to, because I'd rather my females pass, fertile eggs as opposed to sticky infertile eggs. And it's tough, but like I said, this is the road I chose. And I think a lot of people try to breed, and I think some people just get really good females that are very durable to the captive environment. I think ornates are very sensitive to it, but I'm quite sure somebody will get lucky, throw them in their snake incubator, you know what I mean, and say, oh, I've bred them already. You do it twice, you got me sold. But that's at this point, that's my goal, 2-3 times. That way I can write me a little paper, have it rejected again. Because I wrote one publication on that was reaffirming them having a crustacean-based diet. And that got rejected because I'm not a biologist, and apparently it was a crappy paper, but I tried my best. It was an observation, because it's different, because I write financial stuff. So I can write a financial publication. It's different writing a bio, I mean, for Celsius and all that, but it was like, bio.
You even went to the metric system?
Yeah, I did the whole thing. And it was like, all my bio buddies were just being like soft about it. Like, yeah, I think it just wasn't given because of this. And I was like, is it crappy? Like, yeah, you're not a biologist. You know what I mean? So it's just like, but I tried, I'm going to revise it and rework it and all that. And I got a biologist that's willing to work with me on it. But at the same time, it's like the videos get to people a lot better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that paper that I'm doing is just reaffirming something that I was already
a YouTube video is a lot more digestible to the average person.
New media. And it's
and I wish people knew how powerful that is for our community and people getting into, these kinds of animals.
I think like a lot of your videos, I saw a lot of your videos, and I like the direction that it's going. And yours are like way flashier, and they're like Magic School Bus, and they're all nice. Mine are like all dark, and like, they have that evil urban air, and and I pop out with a 12-letter word, and they're like, what? You know what I mean? So it's just, it's what it is. But I think there's a place for both, because it's like, if you want to stop it from dying, this is what it is. I don't, straight no chaser. But at the same time, I wish I could do videos like you guys. There's another guy that does skinks. I forget his name. I'll get, if you hear his name too. He does great videos, and he's like a zoologist. I called him up like, dude, don't you ever stop, like, because he's talking about a lot of things I talk about. He does it better. I'm like, keep your pace, because I'm just trying to put things together over here, So, because my thing, a lot of stuff that I do, I know that it's not reasonable from a financial standpoint for people to try to do. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I said, I budget. Literally, I budget. Like, I have a whole write-off that I do with my food. Like, I have money that goes to a certain account, and it looks a certain way at a certain time of year. That's just what it is. Like, even when it comes to buying monitors, certain guys know if Dorian is not gonna go past a certain point. Like, I'm like super, super frugal with that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, no, I don't know where it came from. I'm good. You know what I mean? But you give me an Ornate and it's healthy, I might spend $1,500 on it, because that's what I like. That's what I deal with. Mm-hmm. And the Ornates tend to roll with my schedule a lot better too, because they don't require the attention that a water monitor needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just pretty much that's just me making sure I had an animal that curtailed to my lifestyle. And I think that's one of the issues with the reptile industry. Yeah. People aren't picking animals that are conducive to how they live. Like, some people just need to have geckos. Like, no, seriously.
That's all they can handle.
Seriously,
okay.
like, seriously. And, it's like the kid that buys a Ritter slider, and then he goes away to college, and his family's like, yo, it won't die. Like, you know what I mean? Snakes are more the apartment pet. That's why the snake industry is like this huge, and the monitor industry is, there's certain things that are more conducive to a person's lifestyle. And I think that Ornate monitors and black throat, and I'll even throw salves in there. Like, you gotta know what you're getting yourself into, and you have to be ready to build that enclosure or find somebody that does. If you don't know how to do it, hire a cabinet maker. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to get your hands dirty. I think when I started, I bought like $1,500 worth of tools. Just like, because I knew what was gonna happen, and I had made so many mistakes with so many different enclosures. Yeah, it looks great to look on my YouTube and see me snapping it together, but you have no idea how many enclosures were getting pry barred apart, how many trips to the dump I had to make because I didn't seal something right, and knowing that a wood enclosure is only gonna last me about 24 months, and I gotta redo it, and it's a lot of work, but I enjoy the enclosure part.
So did those? You said it only lasts like 24 months. I know you like dry lock them and everything. But do you still have to replace certain aspects of them? Nothing
is gonna equip a piece of wood to deal with a high humidity environment with soil, with an animal that's becoming larger, that's constant walking. It's a whole different ball game. And the best thing you could do with a wooden foundation is put styrofoam or some sort of filler in there to support it. Right there. I just redid a whole floor. I'm about to do a whole video on that. I had to rip out a whole foundation. That was the one with the grass in it that I just did another one with grass. I had to put styrofoam in there to give more buoyancy, because my Ornates, they're muscular and they're strong, and I have so much soil. Luckily, my adult, she had dug a hole in there. And by the time I found it, it was so much substrate that it actually made it, I guess she just got tired of the dirt filling in the hole. So luckily she didn't go underneath, you know what I mean? Like whatever. So I had to move another reinforced enclosure. So it's just these animal, and a healthy monitor is gonna tear things apart. Obese monitor is just gonna hang out. And that's what you see most of the time. And there's this weird area where I've been criticized, animals that I didn't even think were obese, that I gave him to one of the vendors. They're like, oh, it was a little overweight. And I'm like, man, it wasn't obese. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a fine line of how to know. They should be muscular, have that lateral line.
You would think that they must be really sensitive, because if you're feeding crustacean, I mean, that doesn't have much fat on it. I mean, that's a pretty lean meat, and they're still getting overweight.
Well, no, with the way that I do it, because I'm doing the most, what I consider the closest thing to a proper diet, best practice. That's why my animals are lean, because the bird doesn't have a lot of fat on it. That's the whole prey item. That's the whole prey, terrestrial, whatever animal, man, whatever. And then you have the crustaceans. These things aren't obese in the wild. They're fit. They're swimming around. They're competing with dwarf crocodiles in Africa. That's the hell of a thing to be competing with for food. You know, that's their main competition. Well, it used to be before, you know, it may not be the same now with a population increase of humans and everything and encroaching. But my thing is like with the crustaceans, it keeps them lean. The only one that I have the problem with the obesity is that rehab, because once they're out of whack the first couple of years, the fact
that's what a corn snake is exactly the same way. You can get fat deposits. You can get fat that is just, they will keep the same body shape their whole life, even if you can never seem to lean them out. And if you have a fat female, you're kind of fucked as far as if it's really obese, especially in king snakes and corn snakes. That female can be totally, you know, dunzo as far as fertility.
And that's the thing where, because they're so everybody thinks reptiles are so separate, and it's really some common practices in regards to feeding and humidity that need to be followed no matter what, you know, no matter what it is. But yeah.
He needed more beer. I've been wanting to say this forever. It's funny, the person who actually recommended you for our podcast, he was like, BH Varanus feeds his animals way better than any human. He's like, this is why you have to have him on, because of why he feeds his animals. He's like,
and I didn't realize that was a big thing. It's just that I'm like, even my daughter, I have a 2-year-old, and I'm like looking at the boxes. I'm tracking how much fructose is in her diet, which it should be 0. And, you know, my wife would be like, no, you know, I think that the least you could do for something that's in a box is feed it the best you can.
Yeah.
If I lived in the Midwest, I would have everything Southwest. Like seriously, like I ran out of crawfish and I had them shipped in from a restaurant supplier in Louisiana. Like I don't care. But here's the thing: from a financial standpoint, I manage my money a certain way, so I allot myself a certain amount of money
for that
to do that. I never exceed that. So if I go and I do, if let's say it's summertime and everybody's eating great and they're just, you know, and maybe I was off one on my volume, that means I can't buy ornates when they come in because I went off of my budget.
That. Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So that, like I said, the budget is.
So you always got to be ready for a good animal.
Yeah. So my thing is like now, like a lot of my buddies are buying food because they have more animals and they have all types of stuff. But I don't need anything because it's so cold and I'm watching the gut, you know, the gut load and everything else. This is lasting me longer, so I didn't have to do a crab run to the marinas. Like all the marinas, they know me, so they're like, you know. So I drive all the way to Jersey City for like green crab bait. You know what I mean? Like, so it's my thing is that, you know, and I go a little crazy with the presentation, you know, but you know, I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's totally normal because I get it, you know, because my wife just looks at it sometimes. It's like, really? But you know, this is a testament to my wife is the day I had chicks, and this one day, this is when I used to feed live chicks, you know. Crazy. Yeah. And my wife, she's from the South. She's like, yeah, hand me the bowl. She grabbed a chick, threw it in a bowl, gave it to me. I was like, oh, she's a keeper. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just, it's
those girls, they've seen an animal die once or twice, and they're cool.
Exactly. So I think with the diet, I think that to me, I think it's done volumes for my animals, their pigmentation, like my animals are bright, they're vibrant, they're healthy, they're crazy, but you know, they're my animals and I know them and I know when to catch them. I use giant gloves that go up to here. I get a little bit of flack for wearing gloves, but
dude, I hate when people do that. Like, why would you ever, like, I use a snake hook because I'm not an idiot. You wear gloves because you're not, I mean, why would you want to be scratched up?
There's a lot of testosterone connected to the monitor sector.
Reptiles in general.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, I don't use gloves. I say that's cool, but I don't want to look like I'm like bloodletting. Like I don't want to, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where, you know, I'm around certain circles, you know, that I don't need to. I don't want to look like a normal individual. I don't want. Yeah, I want to be able to roll up my sleeves when I'm at like a barbecue, you know, in a high sedity neighborhood. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not in the hood no more. I changed my life. Like I need to make sure that all of this is clear. I don't need
like most of you snake dudes are already wearing black. You don't need cuts all over your wrists and stuff.
Yeah, it's not really. That's not really. I don't want that to be an icebreaker. Oh, what happened, Dorian? And everybody turns around, you know, and it's just like it's just what it is. But you know, my thing is that I think it's one of them things where when it comes to food, like I'm super psycho about it because I just think garbage in, garbage out. And if I'm dealing with a species that hasn't been bred in a long time, no one's really put the time in. And I think that's what it is. No one's really put them in, because they're really a-holes, and they really truly are. A healthy Ornate will tag you. Like my adult female, they're so smart. Like I get tail whipped every day by an adult. Her tail is like that fat around. Like you guys can see that.
That's like almost a softball for
but
people who are
she's
listening.
smart enough that when she goes to smack me, and because I might be too, I might have just woke her up because she has a banker's job or something. She likes to get up late, like, you know. But these are your animals. You know your animal, and she'll try to hit me with her tail, but she'll stop. Literally, she'll stop and she'll just like nudge. It freaked me out the first time, and I just looked, and that's when you close your enclosure. I take the tarp, put it down, and I just let her have her piece because it's a warning, and I get warnings every day. So you know, like, but when she's on feed, it's all mouth because people gotta understand that her line of sight is a little different. You know what I mean? She needs to be able to see it on this side. So if I'm holding it here, she doesn't know what's going on. And then I use black gloves when I feed. I have them color coded. They see colors. So there's a lot of safety issues in there. And like I got bit for the first time in 7 years. I think it was 2 days ago. And when an Ornate bites you, and this was a subadult, it hurts for about 4 hours. Like a good one, a good healthy one, because they look at you when they're biting you. It's a full eye looking at you, trying to figure out what's going on. And I've been feeding my animals crustaceans, so they don't have any atrophy in their jawbones. You know what I mean?
Strong.
But it was an accident because the animal that bit me was a young female that I trained to come out the enclosure to get her food and go back. And she just went to the back of the enclosure and kind of just like froze. And I feel kind of bad, so I just taped it up, you know. And
she just had a weird moment where she got nervous.
Yeah, you know, it scared her too. So it was kind of like one of the moments where I usually wear gloves. I never put my hand in her cage because I know she's like crazy, you know. So, but that was my fault because I didn't wear gloves. And I don't like, and these things have one inch. And when you do a lot of substrate, and your animals are digging, and you have, you know, I have the cork wood in there. Their claws get sharper because, you know, the soil from them digging, you know, it sharpens their claws. You know what I mean? Some of the best black throats I've seen. Angela Weller, his animals look ridiculous. Their eyes, F2 and beyond animals, their eyes are so clear, they look like human eyes almost. You know what I mean? To where you just feel so bad for any animal that ever came in wild caught. And I'm at that point where I brung up these wild caught hatchlings and they're now subadults, and I'm looking at how healthy they are. And I'm like, damn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of do want to supply a captive stock so we can start, you know, not bringing them in the way we bring them in, but, you know, time will tell. But that's where my diet is like, okay, if I put good things in them, good things will come out. You know what I mean? If it's not overweight and I'm feeding it a lean diet and a little bit of fat, because they get fat in their diet. You know, I do throw a mouse in there every once in a blue moon. Though that fat, a lot of times it pushes on the oviducts and different organs. It makes them passing infertiles and eggs a lot harder. You know what I mean? So that's where you get a lot of impaction deaths and stuff like that. A lot of stuff is unofficial. There's a lot of stuff. There's no publications and stuff like that. But
no scientific explanation.
Yeah, you know, it's just a lot of stuff that the monitor guys, the powers that be know. But it's kind of like, who's gonna listen?
And it's anecdotal from a guy who's in his basement playing with lizards.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, rah, 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 rah. And I'm just like, well, you know, I do got a lot of them. That's all I have. And, you know, and also early in the game, I deal with one species. And when you deal with one species, the monitor community tended to tolerate me because a lot of them guys just tolerate me. I am not a fan. I am not a fan favorite at all. But I also don't start any crap. And I just, you know, it's just the way it is.
You have your lane.
Yeah, and you know what? I think everybody does. And I think where I'm cool with the lane that I'm in. I have enough people that I can reach out to if in case of emergency. That I don't need anybody else. I don't need if guys are cool and I get by chance to meet them or whatever, like cool. If I don't, I have enough of a support system where if it's really an emergency, people go, okay, what do you need, Dorian? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Nobody has to like, I don't care if you don't like me. Just answer my question because I'm immune to the negativity and the ruggedness, but a lot of people aren't. So that's where when I do the channel, that's why I set up like that. That's why I like your channel, my channel. So the information is out there so people don't have to have the conversation. They can go and look, you know what I mean? And that's pretty much where it is. I know that people can't get to a lot of this stuff. And it's just like, but
are you going to talk to 2,000 people individually? Like, you know, the amount of people that can see a video is so crazy. It's like, how could you possibly reach that many people with that information without doing something like a YouTube video.
And that's why I did it, because I had to dig into those medical documents and being at the university to like until it closed, you know, trying to get like publication because nobody would help me. You know what I mean? And now I'm at a point where I still grab publications. I just didn't stop. You know what I mean? Now I'm looking at different things. Let me research, you know, beneficial gut bacteria now. You know what I mean? Let me take it to the next level of knowing my animal.
You can just always get deeper.
Yeah, it's because you need to know your animal inside and out, because if this really is something that you're into, because some people it's a fad, it's an impulse. They're out of it. But for the people that want to sit there and argue and want to go toe to toe, you better come with it, because
that's what makes everyone better though. At the same time, when you're
we hope.
Some people can get real bitter, I guess, but hopefully you're building each other up at the end of it, and hopefully something.
And what's better than Facebook? You don't have to have any repercussions.
Yeah.
To, you know, because in the beginning I used to get the IP addresses of people. Like I used to I'm crazy, so it's like, and like my wife put a stop to a lot of stuff. Like she's like I call her Puff. Like she's like my producer, like my manager. Like she manages the YouTube, the Instagram. She like surveys everything. If somebody's getting disrespectful,
imagine if you had a Suge Knight.
Like she's my Suge Knight. Like she's my wife is my Suge Knight, because she's like she knows how I was before the college, before finance, before all of that. She's like, we don't need you to reverting back to anything, because I'm the type of guy to show up, and it's just, but that's South Philly in me. That's that Philly in me. We're a very in your face type of like town, I guess you could say. You know what I mean?
The Northeast in general,
it's like
is
you said
rougher.
What? It's like you said what?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You know what I mean? I had a tech buddy. He was like, IP address, boom.
There's not much forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, and it's just, I had to stop because I don't want to get indicted. I don't want this person, something happens to this guy, and I didn't.
It's really not that.
Yeah,
serious.
it's really not. It's only lizards. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, my thing is, my wife was like, what if something happens to somebody and you just got an argument with them and they got proof on Facebook? I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. She was like, this is not.
It's like,
we're not doing it. She said, I'm going to make you pull the plug on everything. You're just going to have stuff in your basement. I was like, all right, man. Like, what could I have to give my wife that power? Because I knew in the beginning I wasn't mature enough to handle it myself, because I was like,
especially with things that you love, you get out of hand quickly just because
and
you're like,
you get passionate about it. So when you get passionate about things, it tends to, and it's conversational and it's Facebook, and it works both ways. These people they're keyboard gangsters, and I'm like, yo, like,
no one's saying that to your face.
You know, and I've had people make fake Facebook pages and then attack me, and it's not really.
Oh, we had one of those.
Yeah. They're listen. What? Your trolls.
The one that sent the message about you.
Oh God, I don't even want to know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that happened. But I wanted to ask you about, and I didn't know that this was debated until I started, listening to more monitor people. But UV, I thought that was kind of a given that everyone did UV, but
okay, so.
I mean, I've heard so many conflicting things, and apparently it's like still very debated and hotly debated in the community. But
what is UVB? I did like a whole 3 video, like 12 minutes apart, with like stuff popping up. Like, you better watch it after we get done this podcast. You know what I mean? I'll send you the links.
Because I'll tell everyone, just put it up under a light bulb, and you'll be okay.
Listen, like you're talking to a dude that doesn't mind driving 2 hours for feeders. So
that's true. That's like, if it's borderline, you may need it. I feel like you're just going to be like,
I feel as though there are papers that prove that. They did a paper on, this is where, this is such an argument. It takes so much energy out of me. I'm glad you guys saved this for last. I probably would have walked out of the podcast. So UVB is radiation based, right? It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
In the daytime, you could be under a plant, you're still getting UVB. You may be in the direct sunlight,
but you're still getting it.
You're still getting it. Unfortunately, the UVB, the quality of UVB bulbs has decreased greatly, because I have a UVB meter that I use. I think it's not hydrometers. I forget what it's called, but I have a meter, and I've noticed over time that a lot of the Reptiles and stuff like that they're not as strong as they used to be, because I think that there's studies, and I'll send them to you. There's like even YouTube videos where the range is about 24 inches. And at the same time, UVB, because it's a form of radiation, and this is just like comprehensive common sense. Like, this is not, me, the way I do my UVB. I turn it on twice a week for 8 hours, for 8 hours, because it's radiation based. I use UV. I use PAR 38 floodlights. Okay. The issue with then the UVBs, because the light turns on, there's even a different level of quartz that's inside of it. The glass is even made different. I did a whole video on it. It's like it's too much. It's really serious. So it's a lot to it. But UVB is needed. They did the study. Make a long story short, they did the study on bearded dragons. One set got a lot bigger than the other set.
Period.
That's it.
Story.
Yeah.
That's it. Your animal, you're not gonna. Here's the thing. Will it? If you feed it whole prey, yes, it'll get the vitamin D3 that it needs. It will not be malnourished. I've seen biologists, support that. Whatever. Best practice hobby. You get what I'm saying? Okay. It's like the UV light, the incandescent bulbs. By accident, it works for us because incandescent bulbs give off heat. You get what I'm saying? It's like one of those perfect mistakes that we use to our advantage. Radiant heat panels with a UVB light. Like I know people that have whole radiant panels that are top and bottom, and the animal can crawl in there and they have like a UVB light, whatever. But UVB is also radiation.
Right.
So how much are you supposed to use?
So can there be overexposure?
That's the question now. So that's why I do. So my thing is when I have a question about something, I just cut it in half. You get what I'm saying? You're
kind of supplementing it.
And that's the thing. It's like, if you don't have it, you can supplement it. And best practice in the hobby for animals can stay alive, you can use your Repticalcium. You can use your, which also is toxic because that's made in a factory. So, you're talking
everything. There's a pro and
like just to give it to you straight, like
it's not organic, free range calcium.
Like whole prey. That's why the mice are so important. That's why rats are such a good thing because their bones are denser, so you'll get more vitamins out of it. You get what I'm saying? That's why it's okay for a nerd to feed pieces of chicken because it's soft bone. It's not cooked chicken. You know what I mean? But then you got some people that all they have available is ground beef, like in certain areas, so you got
wait, people feed ground beef to their monitor?
Yeah, because some people that's all they have. Like I'll never condone that. But sometimes from rehab standpoints, some people have to do what they have to do. There's different tricks, but it's like certain stuff you just don't put out there in a monitor work because somebody just uses it as their base diet. Like, it's like, come on, you can't just be feeding, but
there's situations.
Feeder mice, best practice, feeder mice. That's it. Ornates, 50% crustaceans. It ends up turning out cheaper anyway, but that's what they eat. That's the papers have been done. So a lot of stuff what I do is I'll pull out what the prey items in the area is. Like for me, I use 10% rodents because I can. But if I couldn't,
right,
I would probably raise my own mice and like make sure there's no E. coli on the lettuce when I feed it, because I wouldn't feed it pellets, because they're preservatives, and I would go through this whole thing, but I know that my animals don't really require that for their natural diet. But if someone owns an Ornate and they're feeding it feeder mice, they gotta do what they gotta do. Yeah,
you would never want to tell anyone they have to do exactly what you did.
Yeah, because I'm going to such an extreme because I feel as though I have to because I'm trying to breed. Belief in that. I feel as though it's my responsibility. I know that God willing, when I'm successful, I'm gonna have to train those animals to eat feeder mice before I sell them.
Because most likely
because that's where they're going. So I totally get it. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like the monitor game. You have to do that. Like guys like Brad, I always screw up his last name. Brad Salzwood. He does a lot of the high contrast water monitors. I talk to him a lot. Like it is guys that have these rough exteriors and you bounce off them. They're down for the cause. But who do you get this analytical with in a hobby where there's so much battling over best practice? Because this might be this guy's keeping it in the shoebox, this guy's keeping it in the fish tank, this guy built his enclosure, but this guy that built his enclosure lives in southern Texas or Florida. So already in the Northeast, I'm spending at least $2,000 more a year.
Right.
Flat, electric, everything.
All that.
You get what I'm saying? So, and then the guys that are in Michigan, it's even worse, so they really get a lot of respect. And then even they're farther up north. You know what I mean? So it's like, It's this bridge. So you got all these people from all these different areas arguing about how to keep their monitor.
And you don't necessarily keep the same because you're
and that's the thing. But one thing, a monitor baby is like any other baby, they need their high humidity. You know, your 70 to 85 range. And keep the basket hot. Because this thing it's learning how to regulate its body temperature. It's learning, what works. You know what I mean? Your dubia roaches, good base insect, whatever. Even with insects in the U.S., we can't get the huge grasshoppers that would be ideal for a savanna monitor diet. The locusts and stuff like that. You can get them in Europe. Over here, you get them. You can't. They don't play that in the U.S. You can't get them shipped. So it's a lot of different blockades. So somebody in Texas or somewhere else might be able to get them regional. I can't get them. And a lot of the crickets. I'm not going to speak on the cricket thing, but I never feed crickets. I always pick dubia roaches. You know what I mean? Because a lot of crickets have parasites. But you can't tell this to a person that just bought a bearded dragon, person that just bought their monitor. They're 15 years old.
Yeah.
They're gonna have anxiety attack. They're like, my animal's gonna die. What am I gonna do? Big Varanus, he said all this stuff, and I'm like, here we go. You know what I mean? Like that's. So I just, it's like best practice, whole prey. That's what it is. Like and any veteran guy especially breeders are more methodical and they kind of know the game. So it's like boom, 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 boom.
Because your animal doesn't have to just survive. It has to reproduce and survive through that. And hopefully you hope that they thrive.
And that's the thing. Like they live in boxes. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's in a box. I'm doing the best I can with an animal in a box. I think it deserves a Dungeness crab on a half shell. Like that's that's
very upscale. Yours are upscale boxes.
But yeah, and that's where everybody's financial situation is different, and I have to be mindful of that. That's why I don't tell people. I just tell people this is what I do. This is what I do. This is how I do it. If you ask me a question, I'm gonna go back to the basics on how I do it and why I don't have problems, and that's how I like to do it instead of being this, and this, because even though like I'm an admin on the Varanus Ornatus site on Facebook, I don't govern that page. That's somebody else's page. They just let me be an admin, but I watch a lot of stuff and I'm just like, as long as they keep it whole prey, I'm good. Like you just have to, the feeder mice is what's keeping this hobby afloat. Feeder mice is the lifeblood of his hobby, and that's in best practice. That's the calcium.
That's why
the organs and everything else. You're not gonna a lot of stuff. Even if you feed pieces of chicken to your monitor, like Nerd feeds they're breeding on site. You get what I'm saying? Like Nerd is a whole nother animal. So it's kind of like one of those things where you might see somebody feed a piece of chicken, but they're feeding so much more. You know what I mean? Like I might feed a chicken wing or a chicken thigh to my adult monitor because I know that she doesn't break down the feathers as well in the winter. She does, but just to take the load off of her gut, gut bacteria or whatever. Because if it's too low, they're not producing the right one. And if it's too high, they're not producing the right amount. They've done the study on agamas and crocodile lizards and everything else. So, why not? Why not be mindful of that? Until someone proves it out. And so my thing is that with the food, to me, food and enclosure first. If your food and enclosure are right, everything else kind of falls in line. I kind of noticed, like, even when I was almost successful with the pair I had, everything, they had an 11-foot run, and they were just chilling, and I gave them their privacy and they had their lighting and they had their humidity, even with my male, like a lot of ailments come out when you feed an animal what you're supposed to feed it. It's not being masked by being obese and overfed and fed incorrectly. You know what I mean? So because even the animal that passed away with cancer, I knew it wasn't a good feeder. It just never dawned on me to think to get an ultrasound because it was already a male, proven male, So it was a thing where I wasn't mad at the guy I got it from because we knew what time it was. It was a rehab that was given to him,
So you weren't expecting this to be like 100% immaculate animal.
Well, no, I knew what I bought. I know what I'm buying when I get into it. Like sometimes, like I like people to be honest. I like people to be honest with me. When I'm buying an Ornate, I know if Ornate does not get what it needs in the first 24 months, statistically, most cases, they die year 6. For me to have a 10-year rehab is like, I saw people like, oh, it's still alive. I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. We just lost a real big Ornate monitor, like damn near 7-footer, huge, had a head the size of like a dog almost. It was a rehab. It's those animals we get from somebody else starting it incorrectly. And it was sad because that animal, I was trying to buy that animal off the guy. I offered him like $5,000. Like I plays no games with some Ornates. Like I'll spend some money on Ornate. That don't mean out there that I'm gonna buy your Ornate.
Yeah, people are about to start coming out of the woodwork.
You better be feeding Dungeness crab on a half shell for me spending like $1,000 on something. But it's just like, you know, that's what I like. That's my species, and I think that's why I get even a little bit of respect I get because I deal with one species. I'm not all over the place trying to flip animals. Whoever does that, do your thing, whatever. But it's my one species. I focus on that. I'm watching them. That's what I'm doing. Even Brad Salisbury, and I know I'm butchering his name. Like he told me, he said, dude, just sit there and watch your animals. Enjoy your animals. And that's what you do. My enclosures are covered, but my animals like their privacy. I had too many issues with having them being able to see out. To me, how crappy is it to be able to see out, but you can't get out? You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
You know, nothing against people with windows, you know, because I do have a big window on my other thing, but I had to cover her enclosure because her stress level was so high, you know, and then she calmed down.
You always see those monitors in a pet store, someone scratching at the side of a tank.
Yeah, and it's like I get a lot of flack for not having windows, and it's just like the windows aren't for me. Like when I want to watch my animal, I open the enclosure door and I chill there for a minute, and it's looking at me, and I'm looking at it. I'm you're not
trying
in
to
the mood today. Sometimes we're friends, sometimes we're not. But you know, a lot of my interaction comes from me cleaning the enclosures frequently. So they get used to me just being there. And then after a while, you know, and I'm crazy. I pet my Ornates while they're eating. And that's something I don't tell people. People think I'm crazy because my Ornates, some of them are really mean. But, you know, I'm cool. I'm just messing with them. But I know my animal. I know when I need to take my hand out of that. You know what I mean?
You're not going to go pet some other person.
But you know your animals.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have all your fingers if you were that laxative.
Yeah, and it's just and there's harder species. There are worse species. There are more sensitive species out there. And guys are just feeling their way around, you know, and it's just, I wish a lot of the veteran guys would come back. A lot of guys are silent because they got 20 years in. They might just be tired. So everybody's just not.
Same shit for the last 20 years.
For them, it's the same questions all the time, whatever. But like I said, when it comes to Ornates, like I'm gonna represent for them because I just feel like they're not representative in the proper light. And I believe that every year, everybody has one because they're cheap. And soon I wait a couple of months and I say, how's everybody's Ornate? You get like 2 people.
Give them your address.
You get like 2 people. You get like 2 people. You know, and I get people that hit me up, but I can't take in every animal because right now, like I've sold off a lot of animals because I have other hobbyists keeping stuff because I don't believe I can't keep that many large monitors. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like even I have 6 and I have 4 on site and I have 2 off site, and one of the ones off isn't growing the way it needs to grow, so I'm gonna tell the guy he can flip it or sell it. You know, it's just I have to control my volume.
But because you know down the line that animal is not going to do much for you, unfortunately. If your goal is to breed,
and that's the dark side to it is like knowing which ones to sell or not sell. I'd rather have a good home and somebody that's treated like a pet. You know what I mean? Because that's usually where they end up going is like one side or whatever. So if they pan out and they eat well, you know, you got a permanent home. Like, you know, if you're a good quality animal, because I can't put out bad animals. I don't care about a docile animal. I want an animal that eats, has clear pigmentation, has clear eyes. You know what I mean? Doesn't have any respiratory issues, doesn't have any weird growths. Like that male had cancer. I wasn't gonna be able to do anything with it anyway, just from a responsible standpoint. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I would have, if I just wanted to breed, I would have bred him with the female. And what I would have done is those eggs, when they hatched, I would have just donated them to the area college for research and helped out the monitor research thing. You know what I mean? And let the vet students, you know, dissect them or something like that. You know, that would have been the best way to do that. Because what am I going to do? Charge somebody $500 to $100 for an animal and then it has cancer and then they want their money back 10 years later or 6 years later? I'm not doing that. You know, and that's where responsibility comes in at. And luckily, that's not a big problem in the hobby. But with Ornate, I just keep seeing that when I do start breeding, because I have a good feeling that I'm going to be successful in the coming years, I'm going to be very selective about who I sell them to. And if people want them, they don't have to want them. I don't care. I'm going to keep the best, and the rest of them is set up because I have to set that up because you can't keep that many animals responsibly. They get too big. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it is. But I think that's a part of the hobby people don't want to realize. You know, water monitors, they roll. You know what I mean? Like, especially captive bred, they roll. You know, it's a competitive market. It's getting inflated, but they sell. Ornate monitors, a lot of people don't want them. They're not going to sit and watch TV with you. You're not gonna you got some people that say they do, but I'm like, I question the neurological proneness of that animal, because I'm like, he should be like really in his teenage stage, just trying to eat everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what it is, but it's what it is. That's the obvious.
Our friend,
no, go ahead.
Okay.
Since someone asked.
Yeah, our friend Riley asked, what if you instituted a twice daily window of 2 hours of basking lights on in the early morning and late afternoon, like an AM and PM chunk of time with direct UV exposure daily?
So break it up
bulbs?
instead of just do.
Are you talking about bulbs, or are we talking about real sunlight?
I'm assuming you would talk about
She's talking about the bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see when Riley answers, but he was talking about bulbs.
Well, like, yeah, what if you broke it up instead of like a few days of full sunlight? You did some every day. Or do you think it matters?
I think that, and like I said, it's a sticky subject. I know when I get off of here, like, I'm gonna get reamed on even speaking on it, but it's just like, I believe in radiation because radiation believes in us. You know what I mean? And I believe that too much of anything is a bad thing. And I think it's a good balance. And I think that however you're doing it, I do think that it should be on for a 12-hour period. You know what I mean? Because if you look at it, when the sun's out, you know, it's the radiation is everywhere. It's in the shade. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? So my thing is, I think that I don't think you get a lot of benefit from doing the on off unless your timers is working a certain way. Your electricity is kind of I don't see where the benefit would be at. But at the same time, I haven't done the papers or the calcium tests on their bones to say that the way I'm doing it is the right way, and I shouldn't be keeping them all the whole time. But I know a lot about radiation. You know what I mean? And I know a lot. I know too much of anything is a bad thing. So that's why I do what I do just to be safe. Some people do 3 times a week. I've read papers where they've toggled it and they've done on-off cycles, but 12 hours on, 12 hours off, that's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to kill your animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously some people don't do it at all or don't.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and a whole prey diet your animal will be fine. It's just that to me, I want every inch of growth out of my animal. And my thing is that UVB bulb is you don't even know what the intensity of that bulb is because you're not testing the bulb either. You don't have a UVB tester. You know what I mean? So
yeah, because those bulbs wear out in a certain amount of time, right?
6 months.
Wow.
And it's like $20 a pop almost, depending on where you buy it from.
And because we were talking about, and you were like, oh, I didn't build enough fixtures in the first one. So are you doing like the length of the body, or how long is the strip of UV? Or
I have a huge burn on my adult female that she got when I first got her. And what happened is that, and I bitched and complained to everybody in the hobby that didn't like yell at me for not doing it, is the first enclosures that I was building one fixture. Well, she was growing super fast. So she wasn't thermally regulating evenly because the part 38 floodlight was focusing on one part of her body. And what happened was that she went through a shed. Her skin was a lot more sensitive. She ended up with a 3rd-degree burn. So, and it's almost totally gone now. Now it's a surface burn. That's why she goes to the vet like twice a year, you know? And so after that, I talked to a couple of guys and they were like, yeah, that's why we do 2 and 3 lights. I'm like, why did you guys tell me that? See, that's the monitor thing. You got to have a lot of, like, most people, I was pissed, but it's
you got to get in to get the good information.
But see, Dorian's supposed to know so much, and he's BA Varanus, and he has his YouTube. He should have known that an animal needs to be evenly, in the wild, they evenly, bath. Their heat is evenly distributed. Because it's the sun, it's right there.
The sun right
it's not in one spot. So
it's like having a magnifying glass on.
Yeah. So how mad am I gonna? So how mad am I gonna really be? Like, I'm mad at myself because I didn't know. But I told them I told them guys, don't be afraid to tell me anything. Because it had to.
That's how we learn.
But in this hobby, you get so much pushback if you try to help somebody, especially in the monolithic thing. That's why it's the way it is. So I did 3 lights. I do 4 lights. 1 UVB, and I do 3 part 38s. And UVB, depending on, like, I'm a little lackadaisical with it, but I do have my juveniles and my subadults, they have UVB. It's not a question. My adults, it's more or less dependent. The their light's evenly distributed. You know, it's everybody's basking. And honestly, some animals like to attack the lights. It's just monitors are crazy. Some monitors lick the lights. Like, it's just because I have to get cages now to protect all the lights. I have a monitor that I don't know how it unscrews every light every day, and I have to go like they're smart, dude, and they're bored. They're in a box. Like, what are you gonna do in a box? It's like putting a little kid and then giving a kid a crayon and trying to figure out why you draw all over the walls. You lock them in the room. Like, you know, hopefully nobody ever does that. But that's the thing. Like the par 38s, you're putting I have them in a row. I get evenly distributed. Burns have decreased by 90%. You know, some animals just they fall asleep under the light. They're in a box. You know, you get what I'm saying?
Mm.
But the good thing about that is if your humidity's right and there's moisture in the air, it a lot of that takes away from how crispy their skin is and how dry their skin is. It takes away from the proneness of them getting, you know what I mean, of getting burnt. So that's another reason why it's just special little, you know, I'm not worried about it because I know I have 80 to 90% humidity. You get what I'm saying? So, and once I went, and it was hard for me to really establish it at first, because once I started really getting everything together and figuring out how to do it and sealing my enclosure, which is the most important thing, then I never had burns. You get what I'm saying? And there's veteran guys, burns happen. Like people don't want to admit it in this hobby. They happen because animals are individuals. Anything can happen. A light could come down, it could burn the animal because it's a hot light. You don't know what really happened. I've come in and seen whole fixtures ripped down. You know what I mean? And this looking
tantrum.
But they have activity. They have activity time during the day. I'm not gonna fault it. You know, it's living in a box. Yeah. It's living in a box. So my thing is that that's always a sensitive topic with burns because you'll see it a lot because people won't have the proper temperature, so the animal just lays into the heat and it's just trying to get its whole body regulated when it needs another light, it needs another space. So I have my par 38 spaced out about 8 inches apart, 6 to 8 inches apart. So that gives them everything they need. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And in the winter, I just make humidity extra high because I know just in case the temps drops or the ambience get funny, I know at least they got enough humidity where they won't get like dry skin and they won't be more prone to a burn. You know what I mean? And that's it's all from an arguable standpoint. You're always gonna have somebody that says something, but I'm watching it, and if you just from a rational standpoint look at it, you know what I mean? It's just I'm always worried about husbandry. That's all I care about because my animals are already there. But so interesting when you just have one thing. Like I don't have like several things that you get what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's like it's just one of those things. I don't have like a park or anything like Nathan Sweeting down in Smoothwater Wildlife Park down in Florida. Dude has like crocs and gators, and he has a whole wildlife park. He has water monitor, best water monitors I've ever seen in the hobby. I don't care what anybody says, as far as health and wellness, because they're outside and they have the humidity, have everything. He's in Florida, but my thing is like his practice, he'll never have to worry about burns. You get what I'm saying?
Is there something, because like I know certain tortoise species and stuff, like if they're Florida born, they don't do well anywhere else because they're used to that perfect humidity that's totally constant.
Honestly, I'm gonna tell you, like I believe it, and I'm gonna tell you, like I don't have any animals to prove that out, but me and Nathan spoke about that, and I was like, I'm almost scared to get because if he starts producing, because he's like, it's only a matter of time before he starts like because he's gonna like
because he just let them do what they do. And
I've seen the animals. I've never seen water monitors. Only other water monitors I saw that were really beautiful like that were brass saw wheels. I'm probably killing his name again, but it's just like I've seen, and nerds look pretty good. You know what I mean? I don't really follow nerd a lot. You know what I mean? But what I'm looking for, I'm looking for clarity of the eyes. I'm looking for clear nostrils. I'm looking really deep into it, and because I speak to Brett on a regular basis, I'm paying attention to this stuff a little bit more. But at the same time, like those waters, they're regular waters. So I'm not saying that they're better from.
But they look.
I'm not saying from a morph standpoint, but from a health standpoint, we're in the north. We're in the north. Nothing's gonna beat.
So that
this guy has whole man-made lakes down there. Like, ain't not beating him. Like on your best day, nobody's gonna. If he took one of Brad's animals and one of Nerd's animals, it would look like a totally different animal.
Right.
It's just one of the facts that we have to deal with. Like I would love, even in Philly, it's so questionable. You can't even do an outside enclosure. You know what I mean? Because we're in the city and it's just like the noise and everything else, and then the humidity isn't right.
That's true. There's a spook factor as far as
always. Yeah, and Ornates, when they spook, they break things. Like it's just because I got big animals, so it's not like So it's I think a lot of it just comes down to, you know, when it comes to UVB lighting, it does work. The papers are out there. It's just a thing where you got to dig it. You got to dig into the papers, and it's radiation. Like, I don't believe that UVB should be on every single day. I think it should be toggled. Whatever that schedule is that person has on it is going to help the animal. You know what I'm saying? Even if you just do 6 days out of the week and 1 day off, at least you gave it a break. It's not, you know, it's radiation. That's what UVB is. It's not,
and it's very direct, it seems, in comparison.
And that's that. And but at the same time, with the lights and the intensity of light and whether or not the person judged the intensity, it's just the thing about the reptile hobby is we're using all these unnatural items to try to make these natural
things happen.
It's the biggest contradiction known to man. You know what I mean? It's just like the only thing I could say is best practice. But into answering that question is just like, you know, if you're gonna do the light, do it for a day. Don't bother yourself with doing it hours on, hours off. Just do it for the day because the sun's out all day. But when they don't want to be in the sun, they go into their burrows. You know, they go chill. You know what I mean?
And unfortunately, we think that our animals, because humans, obviously, we get too hot, we'll go away. If we go there, they will just stay there. They will stay right under the light.
And that's one of the things is like when you don't have that environment set up correctly, you're killing yourself
with no opportunity to get away.
And there's no opportunity to get away. And it's just like, you know, my rehab female, she was a mess when I got her. Like, she just started using a lay box. Like, literally, like I had to teach her. You know what I mean?
She was just laying eggs all over.
I mean, well, that had a lot to do with me still trying to get the bioactivity right and get the soil right. Now she knows where the lay box is, stuff like that. But when you're dealing with infertils, they're gonna drop them anywhere they want to anyway. But now she just drops them in one bunch now. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit better. So, and her infertils are getting healthier and healthier every year. So, you know, God willing. But I have some younger, I have some subadults that are more promising, and I have an awesome male that I have. So it takes, you know, you're gonna get, my subadults are 6 feet, going on 6 feet, and they just turned 3. So in another 2 years, I'll feel comfortable parent together.
5 is about what you're aiming for?
Yeah, just me. I think they can probably breed a lot younger, depending on the situation.
Probably especially a male, right?
Yeah, because I know people have different experiences with them. I think 24 months, and I think vent to snout length is like 150 centimeters or something like that. That's the breeding. I think on some of the
good luck measuring your Ornate monitor.
No, I mean, but you know what though? Like, I really have them. Like, I can do a lot of stuff with them. It's just I don't put a lot of stuff on videos because I don't want someone thinking that their Ornate monitor is going to do that. They do the finger, you know, because they bite down really hard. Like, they're strong. They're all head. They're crushers, you know, just like I wouldn't want to get bit by a blackthroat. You know what I mean? Like, same thing, you know.
I wouldn't want to get bit by a retic, or
like,
you know, even
you know, and it's just one of those things. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just it's such a hit or miss. And when you get into the enclosure conversation, I commend all those guys that got those 8 foot by 8 foot, the guys that have the big yards, the guys that have all the space. If, you know, I envy them. You know, I'm just like, look. I'm really doing it for the city cats and the Northeast guys that we got to sit up here and
just
suffer.
Seeing that it's possible.
You know, I'm trying my best. And my thing is I want 12 foot by 12 foots. I'm going to get my 12 foot by 12 foots. And that's why it's taking me so long to get a house. Cause I'm like, where am I going to find this square footage at? You know, you know, so it's just a balancing act.
Well, we've definitely kept you past your time.
Yes.
But last question, if someone wanted to reach out to you, where could they get in touch with you?
Facebook is probably the easiest. YouTube, I try my best. Like, I'm pretty good at answering on YouTube, but the video's already there and probably answered all the questions. So it's kind of like, you know, Instagram, Messenger, I'm very good at too, because I can do it on the spot. Because I'm like, really, so usually what I'll do is like, at least twice a day, I'll check my Instagram. I think you guys hit me up like, was it a day? Did it take me a day to get back to you guys? Or
probably not.
It was like a couple hours or something like that.
We'll send out stuff.
I probably send out to so many people. Like, this why
so many people ignore us.
Because I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't know what it was because you can't really see your face on your thing, and it's like Port City. What the hell?
I think most people think we're just like a corn snake.
Are you BH Varanus across all social
media? Yeah. So I have a BH Varanus regular main page. I try my best on that one, but if you go to Dorian JP, I'm usually on that. BH Varanus Instagram is BH_Varanus. That one I'm always on because that's where a lot of my positive people are. That's where my positive energy comes from. Facebook is like the war zone.
Well, Instagram I've seen is like Instagram. No one will talk shit because that's like coming into someone's house and like talking shit.
Forum.
Yeah, you're not in a public forum. You're on their page, on their picture, like talking shit. But everyone needs to go look at his Instagram and YouTube because your enclosures are like biodome.
And if you type in BH Varanus in Google search engine, my YouTube, if you go to video part on the search engine, it'll come up. I'm the only BH Varanus, period. And if you type in Ornate Monitor, it'll come up as well. So there's a couple of out there, but you'll be able to tell. You can tell by the do-rag. So it's like, you know, this is my ode to my old life. So, you know, that's about it. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and being our second in-house guest.
Our Philly in-house, second Philly in-house
guest. Everyone in the chat has loved you and just kept talking about your passion for your animals. And I love having guests on that shows clearly how much you were into it and how much you care about your animals when you put into it.
It was all worth it.
That's what we want, you know, that's what we want our podcast to represent. People who are passionate and are doing the most for their animals.
And spend a lot of money on random crustaceans.
Oh my God! Like this is actually my first write-off year. Like so far we're sitting at 3,700.
Woo!
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you guys want to reach out to us, Theportcitypythons on Instagram.
I like how on YouTube no one knows where you're coming. You can like come in here.
It's okay.
Okay. Theportcitypythons on Instagram. Theportcitypythons.com, Theportcitypythons on YouTube. You're watching us right now, so you know where we are. From the Ground Up podcast you're listening to right now. What else do we have to say?
Theportcitypythons.com. And like we said, we will see you, a lot of you, hopefully, at Oaks this weekend. I can't believe it's Saturday.
Oaks show.
No.
Come say hi. Hang out.
Jesus Christ. It's like every month. It's actually every month now.
It feels like it.
No, it is.
No,
that's Maryland show. I'm sorry. That's
the last one we did was in November.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, November.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, there's a reptile show somewhere every single weekend. So
the 2 hours that we live, you can find one every month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Later, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching.